Okay. Okay, we can get started. Welcome to the January 9th, 2023 meeting of the Town of Niskayuna Planning Board and Zoning Commission. Mr. Henry, would you please call the roll?
Mr. LaFlamme,
Here.
Mr. Scrabby-Tennis,
Here.
Mr. Khan,
Here.
Mr. McPartland,
Here.
Mr. Darpino,
Here.
Ms. Gold,
Present.
Ms. Strang,
Here.
Chairman Walsh.
Here. Thank you. Okay, minutes are up next. Minutes aren't ready, so we'll work on those. The office will work on those. We'll have them at our next meeting. There are no public hearings tonight, so we'll quickly move right to privilege of the floor. So anyone wishing to be heard regarding any planning and zoning matters, please come to the microphone, state your name and address for the record, and we would like to listen to what you have to say.
Hi again. I'm Carol Holmes, and I live at 1301 Ruffner Road.
Yeah, you might want to pull that down a little bit. Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Do I have to start again? I'd like to walk you down Ruffner Road. Many of you, I don't think any of you live on the road that we're so fond of. We are more than just a road of houses. We are a community that cares about our neighbors, our children, and our pets. If you walk down Ruffner Road with me, you will see a beautiful road of well cared for houses with proud owners. Each house stands as an individual home. We're not a bunch of cookie cutter townhouses, and we don't want to be. Much has changed in the 30 years since I moved to Ruffner, but the beauty of the homes and the camaraderie of the neighborhood has not. I hope you will take notice if you do go down our road that the only eyesore on the entire length of the street is located at the top of the Mohawks Club 14th Tee, opposite where Linwood Road comes up. The fence is broken, leaning over, and is a rusty eyesore. So is the fence that goes down my side yard, down the whole length of the 14th Tee. I have repeatedly asked the course to attend to this matter. I sent a letter to the club's owner, not even the courtesy of a response. Strike one. I brought up the issue at one of the first developmental meetings and was promised by the developer, Bill, that the matter would be attended to the next day. While some brush was removed, no attention was paid to the fence, and the downed tree removal was never finished. Strike two. At our last meeting here, I spoke to Bill face-to-face again. This was the second time now, and was again promised action for the following morning. Big surprise. Strike three. No reaction, no work. Now, I don't expect any of you to lose any sleep over my damaged and dangerous fence. But I do hope you lose some sleep if you don't address the nature of the people that you are dealing with. They don't keep their promises. So how or why should we trust them to build a lovely development that they supposedly will take care of? They don't care that we have all paid our taxes, cared lovingly for our properties, and have kept a beautiful road that you as town people should be very proud of. They don't care. But I ask you folks to care and think carefully about the decisions you make about this proposal. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hi, I've never met any of you. My name is Shoshana Bule, and I live at 1119 Ruffner Road, and I've lived there since 2010. I've lived in Niskayuna since 2006. I wrote to you before your last meeting, asking for your attention again tonight in a matter of great importance to me and my family and my neighbors on Ruffner Road. Again, I've lived on Ruffner Road for more than 10 years. One of the principal reasons that Ruffner Road appealed to us was that the street fronted the Mohawk Club golf course, promising a quiet, safe, and picturesque neighbor. Over the last year, I've observed and heard with dismay of this development plan being put forward by the club that would create a new high-density housing development, eliminating the quiet, safe, and picturesque nature of our neighborhood and our neighbor. Recently, we and our neighbors on Ruffner Road have signed a petition that is designed to further inform you of our collective objections to the Mohawk development. We hope that you will take notice of this document and feel free to contact any signatory if you have questions. I continue to feel in common with my neighbors on Ruffner Road that by knocking down a long-established home on our street to create a new road, to permit access to a new high-density development of single and multifamily dwellings, the club is looking to change the essential character of our street and our neighborhood. Such an essential change to the character of our street and neighborhood should be the subject of intense and strict legal scrutiny because it is strongly disfavored in the housing law. A new road on the club's proposed neighborhood is a very bad idea. It will drastically increase traffic and disturbance on our road of widely spaced, single-family, well-kept homes on large lots. And my family and I are opposed to permitting the club to knock down an existing home to use Ruffner Road to access this new high-density housing development. If the board is inclined to grant the very many variances from the code that the proposed development would require, and as reflected in the Ruffner Road residents petition, we are certainly against this for the stated reasons. We urge the board to require the club to reconfigure the existing golf course to permit access to its new neighborhood through existing club land, denying access to Ruffner Road to do so. The club currently has multiple existing egress and entrance on both Union Street and Country Club Road, permitting cars and trucks of all sizes onto its property. And there are many golf cart roads that could easily be widened already in existence throughout its course. By using existing club curb cuts and widening existing club roads, the club, if permitted to obtain the Legion required variances to build a high-density development on its course, is already able to accommodate its new neighborhood on its land without ruining our neighborhood. Thank you for your time and attention to this important matter. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Mark Thomas, 1265 Ruffner Road, and I'm reading a letter on behalf of my neighbor, William Howe, residing at 1270 Ruffner Road in Niskayuna. I am a civil engineer and former director of contracts for the New York State Department of Transportation, and I have grave concerns regarding the proposed development near Ruffner Road. First, the traffic on Ruffner Road is already a problem. There are many walkers, bikers, mothers with strollers, and other pedestrians on the street at all times. Cars and utility vehicles are frequently parked on both sides of the street, often reducing traffic to one lane or very narrow two-lane traffic. These pedestrians and bicyclists must weave through parked vehicles and into active traffic lanes without being visible. Traffic routinely ignores speed limits and stop signs. The last thing we need is another 100 cars or so dumped onto it or an additional intersection. It really needs more traffic calming measures. Second, the proposed development would destroy a belt of woods that serves as a home and migration route for much wildlife. A few months ago, I saw a rare peregrine falcon perched on a tree nearby. Although no longer on the endangered list, nests of these rare birds are still protected by regulation. Open space, critical to all residents regarding property values and quality of life, is increasingly rare in Niskayuna. Third, the proposed development will strain already overtaxed water, sewer, and electric systems. The town currently has frequent problems with water and land sewer lines, and electrical outages are far too common in our area. As far as I know, nothing has been done regarding the impact of the proposed development on the power grid, and the only study of water and sewer was done by an engineer working for the developer, not an independent engineering study. Replacing trees and grassy areas with parking lots and buildings would certainly exacerbate runoff problems. All three of these areas need to be studied by a firm which has no financial ties to the developer. As a Niskayuna taxpayer and lifelong town resident, I am completely opposed to this destructive proposed project. It appears to me that the Mohawk Club, the developer, and even the town have an act now, deal with problems later attitude on this whole project. Please consider the major negative impacts of the town, its residents, and our quality of life. As best as I can see, There are no positive impacts to this project whatsoever. Very truly yours, William A. Howe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Cindy Schwartz. I live on 1363 Ruffner Court. Last week, one of these fine people came to my door with their petition, and we had a conversation about the situation. I'd been following it in the paper and hadn't really done much more about it. So I decided tonight it was important to come and share with you my experience of how bad the traffic is on Ruffner Road now. During the summer, when all these lovely homes are being maintained by all kinds of workers, there are often times when you can't even get around the trucks because you can't see beyond it, and you kind of have to hold your breath. Fortunately, a lot of us are polite with each other and we calm down and we just wait, but it's dangerous. And we also have a lot of kids who enjoy biking and the freedom to go to their friends' homes. I'm a dog walker. I have lots of time out there. If somebody's walking on Ruffner Road with two dogs, even if they move over, if there's another car coming, you have to stop. So we're already pausing and waiting to traverse that one section. You know, this will not affect my court, but it affects the quality and the safety of my neighbors. And I wanted to point out that this is something in the summertime that's particularly dangerous already. And having a main entrance to a project at this level is a great concern. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Privilege of the floor is open. There we go.
My name is Jonathan Valancourt, 1274 Ruffner Road. I'm obviously a resident that could potentially be impacted by the proposed changes of land for the Mohawk Golf Club. Just wanted to reiterate my opposition to having the proposed development enter onto Ruffner Road by tearing down an existing single-family home. In fact, I think as one of the members had brought up last meeting, I believe it's a dangerous precedent to start establishing the ability to tear down single-family homes for any other residential or commercial opportunities. I think that it would set a bad precedent here, and it would be potentially a dangerous precedent going forward. A lot of our existing infrastructure is set up to support older homes that are generally spaced on lots larger than what a standard builder would build on today. In fact, I think there may be some dangerous precedent set with opportunistic builders who would be willing to buy 2 single-family homes in these areas, tear them down, and then put 3 single-family homes in place, considering the land that's available. Of course, someone who owns their own property has the ability to do what they wish with their property. I believe the Mohawk Golf Club has ample real estate to be able to contain such a development within its borders. I do not believe it would be appropriate to have this development impact a single-family home on Ruffner Road by tearing it down to establish a roadway. I do not think that would be consistent with the original plan nor deeds of the homes that the majority of people on Ruffner Road live within. I would encourage the town planning board to require the developers to utilize existing right-of-ways, curb cuts, or frontages in order to, do a development if a development was seen as being able to go forward. And so I would kindly ask the board to please enforce that. I would also, again, like to reiterate from the last time I was here, as the discussion comes up, if the board could please be mindful of in the minutes, ensuring that both properties that are impacted are listed to ensure full clarity for the public. that would be incredibly helpful. Looking at public records, they are owned by two separate individuals or entities. So I don't believe it would be appropriate to combine them under one line item for one address only. And so I would encourage the board to please ensure, for clarity to the public, that both addresses are listed in any agenda line item going forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Albert Myrer. I live at 1166 Ruffner. I spoke last month or, at your last meeting. I'm here to reiterate the same thing. My concern is the traffic. I mentioned last time that I have a 1.5-year-old grandson. We watch him, my wife and I watch him 4 days a week. Our next door neighbors have twin 3-year-old sons. As those kids grow older, they're going to be playing back and forth between our house, the neighbor's house. They don't have to cross the street to see each other, but they have to go out to the street and around the other guy's driveway. As they get older, they're going to just go back and forth. And we're concerned about traffic now. We don't need more traffic going excessive speeds down that street. It's just an invitation for somebody to have a drastic outcome that nobody wants. So I thank you for your concerns.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Marlene Lau.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you.
Okay, I wasn't prepared to speak at all, but I live at 1191 Ruffner Road, Marlene Laux. I've lived there since 1979. It's been a lovely neighborhood for a very long time, and the traffic is a problem. I mean, when we're all having our lawns cut or the garbage trucks are coming, there are times when it does become a single lane highway. Remember getting really angry one time when there was traffic on both sides of the road and I had an appointment at the doctor's. And I couldn't even get out of my driveway. I couldn't make the turn. I finally made the turn and there was someone coming the other direction. So I had to back up into my driveway again. So my main concern is the traffic. I mean, you're going to add, 80 cars or something there? And we do have dog walkers and we do have kids on bikes and kids on skateboards. And it just doesn't seem fair to me that they should improve their capital and we should have our homes devalued. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Village of the floor? Any planning and zoning matters?
Good evening. My name is Dennis Romero, and I live at 1122 Ruffner Road. I just want to be on record as also opposing the development by the Mohawk Club. For all the things you've already heard, I'm not going to say anything new, but what I am concerned is that there, from my perspective, there seems to be a bit of NIMBY attitude about this construction, and so. You need to know that there are many, many residents on Ruffner who are, and it should be a town issue, frankly, but certainly the people living on Ruffner Road are the ones who will have the brunt of the problem. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Do we have anybody virtually, Laura,
So I was trying to get one person to come virtually, but she's struggling with the link. Becky Thomas, I do believe that she has sent emails in opposition, and if I can get a statement from her, I'll pass it on to you.
Okay.
Also wanted to acknowledge received 9 emails prior to this meeting that I have shared with the planning board and the town board, and they will be added into the permanent record. I also received 1 email following what I had already emailed the boards this night at 5:19. Which I will send to the planning board, town board, and add to the permanent record. I'm not reading them into the record anymore, but I did receive one that you guys hadn't gotten yet at 5:19, so I will send that to you tomorrow and respond to her.
Yep. Yeah. Thanks, Laura, for sending those out. So, I received those, I think it was like 4:00 or somewhere. So, and the board got them, but obviously people work, so it's hard to get to those at the last minute. But we all got them, so, and they'll be part of the record. Anyone else wishing to be heard regarding any planning and zoning matters?
Do we know how to access?
Could you, would you please come up?
It's just because no one on the recording will hear your question.
Yeah, we don't get into,
Mark Thomas, 1265 Ruffner Road. I just wanted to make sure that we have access to the permanent record at all times.
Well, the emails that we're referring to will be part of the minutes in the future minutes. So they just received those tonight. And all the minutes are posted on the town webpage.
What about all the emails that were received that weren't read in the meeting?
Well,
and
those
just-
are the ones that she's going to
Yeah,
make part of the
there- yeah,
record.
so essentially, you have access at all times. Well, at any time that the town is open, you have access to the public records. You could come into town hall and see them at any time that we're open.
They are not available online.
They wouldn't be available online until we put them in the packet. But
And does that happen along the way or at some point in the future or what?
so it's something to discuss. I think Chairman was alluding to that we would attach the email comments to the minutes. It's something that we can do and have done in the past. Although what I was proposing is that we put the comments in the land file, which you would have to come to town hall to look at. But if it's the will of the board, I could attach them to the minutes. It's not an issue.
Attach the physical full emails to the minutes?
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Well, it's the will of the board. I
Yeah,
don't
The
think it's
will of the
required.
board.
Yeah, well, I mean, if we read them all into the record, which we're not doing tonight, they would be in the minutes. So it's probably best, my point of view would be to attach them.
Yeah. Okay. So if we attach them to the minutes, then they would be in the packet theoretically for next meeting,
And that gets posted.
Which is the 23rd,
which is the 23rd. Yeah.
7 o'clock.
At 7 o'clock.
Yeah,
Yeah.
great, thank you.
I just want to set expectations. I have lost my planning secretary, so I will try very hard to have minutes by the 23rd, but it may actually roll into the next meeting, but we'll
Okay.
try really hard.
Yeah, but they will be there and, the public, the town webpage, everything's there. Our total packet that we receive is available to all you at the same time. So just keep an eye on the calendar for when the meetings, everything's there. So just take a look and you'll have what we have.
We'll do
Okay.
it as fast as we can.
All right, anybody else before I close privilege of the floor? Okay, hearing or seeing no one, we'll close privilege of the floor. Thank you for your comments. Just for information, on tonight's agenda, we do not have the Mohawk Golf Club, as you're all aware. Don't expect any conversation on that since it's not listed on the agenda, but obviously you're all welcome to stick around. Thank you for coming tonight. All right, let's see. So unfinished business, we have no unfinished business. We'll move right to new business. Under new business tonight, we have 4 resolutions. The first resolution being Resolution 2023-01, a resolution for recognition of Planning Board member Daisy Shenfield. And I'd like to read that resolution. If everybody could bear with me a moment, I think it's important that we read it. One of the purposes of the meeting was to take action on a resolution of recognition for former Planning and Zoning Commission member Daisy Shenfield. Whereas Daisy Shenfield was appointed to the Planning and Zoning Commission by the Niskuna Town Board on December 7th, 2017, and served continuously for over 5 years as a Planning Board alternate and Planning Board member. And whereas Ms. Shenfield sat on the Planning Board during its review of large development and redevelopment proposals that shaped much of the town of Niskuna and helped rejuvenate its commercial zoning districts and protect its residential character. And whereas Ms. Shenfield thoroughly reviewed each Planning Board packet and project, and her attention to detail ensured projects took into account the needs of the surrounding neighborhoods and the greater good of the town. And she excelled at comprehensively thinking about projects and identifying potential impacts for the board to address, which was an incredible asset to the Planning Board. And whereas Ms. Shenfield, in her capacity as Planning Board member, treated residents and applicants with kindness and respect and demonstrated the kind of excellence and service to the public that the town of Niskuna strives for. And whereas Ms. Shenfield served the people of the town of Niskuna with honor and distinction, and her knowledge and deep understanding of planning issues will be greatly missed. Now, therefore, be it resolved that this Planning Board and Zoning Commission of the town of Niskuna offers its personal and official thanks and appreciation to Daisy Shenfield for it, and it does so publicly to commend her for excellent service. I have a motion on the resolution.
Motion.
Motion for adoption by Mr. Khan, and a second.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
And seconded by Mr. Scributinus, and I'm sure we all feel the same about seconding and moving this resolution. And I'd just like to thank Ms. Shenfield. If she's not watching, we'll make sure she gets a copy of the resolution. We appreciate her service to the town. Any comments? No? Mr. Henry, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Laflamme,
Aye.
Mr. Scributinus,
Aye.
Mr. Khan,
Aye.
Mr. McPartlin,
Aye.
Mr. Darpino,
Aye.
Ms. Gold,
Aye.
Chairman Walsh.
Aye. Motion carries. The resolution is approved. Again, thank you, Daisy. All right, next resolution is Resolution 2023-02. And I'll just summarize this resolution. It's posted to the town webpage. Whereas, and this is for the Tall Oaks Apartments. Whereas Niskuna zoning code section 220-26, multiple family dwellings, section J, signs states, in addition to the regulations of section 220-22A10, one sign may be permitted at each access point to the site. As proposed, two signs measuring 22 inches wide times 20 inches high, that's 3.1 square feet, are shown at each of the two unique entrance points, Brookshire Drive and Pierce Road. Therefore, a waiver of one additional entrance point sign at each of the two entrance points is required. And whereas proposed, sign 2, secondary building ID sign west on page 4 of the 13-page drawing set describes a directional sign measuring 4 foot by 3 foot, which is 12 square feet. Therefore, a waiver of 8 square feet of area is required. And whereas, as proposed, sign 5, leasing center ID sign west on page 10 of the 13-page drawing set describes a directional sign measuring 3 foot wide by 2 foot 8 inches high, that's 8 square feet. Therefore, a waiver of 4 square feet of sign area is required. Okay, so further, resolved, this planning board and zoning commission has determined that the proposed sign waivers as described above would have a minimum negative effect on aesthetics. And be it further resolved that the planning board and zoning commission does hereby grant said waivers to allow for the signage as described in the 13-page document entitled Sign Summary by Bartosh Signs dated 8/18/21 with the most recent revision of 11/15/22. And further resolved, the planning board and zoning commission finds the above referenced site plan meets the requirements of the zoning code and previous plan approvals, and therefore hereby approves this plan. Do I have a motion on the resolution?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Move for adoption by Mr. Scributinus. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Gold. Any discussion?
Chairman Walsh, I'm going to have to recuse myself from this one only because I currently have AJ Signs as a contractor on the current project.
Okay. Should we have Ms. Strang vote on this? Is that?
Yeah.
Okay,
That's
as an
correct. Can
alternate?
you call Ms. Strang on the vote?
Okay. Any other discussion? I took a ride over there and I feel it'd be minimal impact. The signs on the columns, I think will help to identify the apartments. And I don't see any concerns with the signs.
Yeah, I guess I would like to say just for the record that, in general, we like to keep within what is required in zone 4 signage. I agree with Chairman Walsh on seeing the area that on this specific case, as opposed to other cases we've looked at recently, Hillside Avenue, et cetera, that in this specific case, there is not a negative impact on the aesthetics, but just to make sure that we're always careful about, granting waivers, especially on signs.
Well, yeah, and also in your packet, you'll note that they did adjust the large sign down to 24 inches, so that one is compliant. It doesn't require a waiver.
Correct.
Beautiful.
Right.
Yeah.
Any other comments? Concerns? Okay, Mr. Henry, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Laflamme,
Aye.
Mr. Scributinus,
Aye.
Mr. Khan,
Aye.
Mr. McPartlin,
Aye.
Ms. Gold,
Aye.
Ms. Strang,
Aye.
Chairman Walsh.
Aye, motion carries. The resolution is approved. Do we have a representative here tonight of the signage company or the Tall Oaks?
Yeah, Tom.
Mr.
Yep, I'm here. Tom
Okay.
with AJ Signs.
Okay, Mr. Wheeler, you're all set for getting your building permit, and thank you for joining in tonight.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay. All right, and let's see, next resolution, Resolution 2023-03, a resolution for site plan approval for remodeling the existing medical office building for general office space at 1758 Union Street. And I'll summarize. Resolved, the Planning Board and Zoning Commission finds the above referenced site plan meets the requirements of the zoning code and previous site plan approvals, and therefore hereby approves the site plan intended change with the following conditions. 1, if proposed signage complies with the zoning code, it can be reviewed and approved by the planning department. Any waivers or special signage will require the signage to be approved by the planning board. 2, the applicant shall explore planting street trees in the green areas adjacent to Union Street and submit a planting plan of findings to the planning department tree council. And 3, applicant shall replace asphalt and sidewalk that serves this property according to the specifications of Schenectady County. Do I have a motion on this resolution?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Moved by Mr. Scributinus for adoption. Do I have a second?
A second.
And second by Mr. Laflamme, and we'll have some discussion. We have the applicant online on this one, Mr. Bellamy, representing the applicant.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, did you get a chance to take a look at the packet and the conditions of the resolution that were put forth?
Yes, thank you.
Are you okay with those comments and concerns that were brought forward to us by the planning department?
Yes, I am.
Specifically, the opportunity to help improve the Union Street corridor with some trees, and that curb cut is a little rough there. I tried pulling in there. It's a pretty good bounce, so I think this will also address that.
Yes, we can do that.
You can do that? Great. I'm glad to hear that. Thank you. Any other discussion, concerns from the board?
Just that it's a less intense use, so there should be little to no impact at all.
Yep. Thank you, Ms. Gold. It's a good comment. It's less intense from a parking standpoint, so it complies in all matters. And this is just basically a change of tenant with some minor tweaks to the site plan, which we appreciate your willingness, Mr. Bellamy, and the applicant to take care of that. Okay, anybody else? Okay, Mr. Henry, please call the roll.
Mr. Laflamme,
Aye.
Mr. Scributinus,
Aye.
Mr. Khan,
Aye.
Mr. McPartlin,
Aye.
Mr. Darpino,
Aye.
Ms. Gold,
Aye.
Chairman Walsh.
Aye. Motion carries. The resolution's approved. Good luck over there, Mr. Bellamy. Please pass that on to the owner.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Last resolution is Resolution 2023-04, resolution for signage approval at the Volcano Korean Barbecue and Hot Pot, 2309 Knott Street. And I'll summarize. Resolved that the Planning Board and Zoning Commission finds the above reference signage meets the requirements of the zoning code and previous site plan approvals, and therefore hereby approves the signage package. This is for the Volcano Restaurant at ShopRite Plaza. And this was an open item from our previous approval to review the signage, and the signage is compliant. So do I have a motion on approval of the resolution?
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Khan. Do I have a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
And second by Mr. Scributinus. Any discussion? Okay, Mr. Henry, please call the roll.
Mr. Laflamme,
Aye.
Mr. Scributinus,
Aye.
Mr. Khan,
Aye.
Mr. McPartlin,
Aye.
Mr. Darpino,
Aye.
Ms. Gold,
Aye.
Chairman Walsh.
Aye. Motion carries and the resolution's approved. And if the applicant is listening, looking forward to getting over there for the new restaurant when it opens. Did we get a date yet on that? Do you know?
No, but they do have a building permit for the interior work and they have started. So you may have seen the dumpsters and some of the work
Right.
over there.
Great. Looking forward to that and a great reuse of the space. So thank you, everybody. All right. And that's it for new business. And we'll get on to discussion items. We got a few items tonight. First being 3900 State Street, the site plan application to combine 17, 25, and 33 Fagan Avenue with the existing Kia Automotive lot. So that's taking down two existing single-family homes and building a 144 parking space automobile sales lot. And we have a representative of the Matthews, right, Automotive Group. Would you please come to the podium and state your name for the record, and then you can summarize the project for us.
My name is Vincent Salvani, COO Matthews Auto Group. Mr. Chairman and members of the Planning Board, thank you for the opportunity to present this to you and begin a discussion on what we hope is a successful plan that we can put together that works for both Matthews and the town of Niskayuna. We are seeking and actually under contract with the two houses and the three actual properties as they stand now, under contract with the owners, current owners, with the condition that the planning board agrees to our plan. So we have a contingent offer based on this discussion. And our goal is to finalize the purchase of 17, 25, and 33 South Fagan Ave, pave them with a impervious pavement, but with an underground water containment and treatment system. With stormwater. I think there was some discussion back and forth with the town as to which method would be most ideal with Mitch Cromer from our real estate arm. So our desire is to accomplish that parking lot while maintaining our reputation as a good neighbor to the people on Fagan, and I believe it's Amherst, is it? To the,
Yeah.
I park there all the time and I couldn't tell you the street name, but, so I believe everyone has received the initial plan design. And I am here to represent that, to begin the discussion. I believe we have the proper zoning for what we're trying to accomplish.
Yep. Well, a couple things. The packet did get in on time, that it did make the Conservation Advisory Council meeting the other day, right? It was the first beginning of the year. So we do have some comments from them. I don't know if you had an opportunity to see the packet that was posted online, but everything that we're going to talk about is contained in the packet from the Conservation Advisory Council, okay? And the other thing is that this is a permitted, but it's going to require a special use permit, which has to be issued by the town board. So the process would be, we work on it reasonably to a point with this board, which, based on it's not a building, so, it's from a design standpoint, it's pretty straightforward. But we'll have to have a public hearing, and then we have to make a recommendation to the town board because it is a special permitted use in that zoning district. Then the town board, based on our recommendation, will also hold a public hearing and then take action on it. So you're looking at several meetings.
I understand the
Just want to make
process.
sure you understand that, okay? It's going to take some time. That's one thing. The Conservation Advisory Council, was concerned about, impact on the neighborhood since it's, residential and you're talking about taking down a couple homes. Obviously buffering is important if this goes forward to protect the neighborhood. And we'll have the opportunity when we have our public hearing to hear from the neighborhood, what they think about this project if they're not familiar with it already. Did you talk to any of the neighbors? Have you?
I believe the members of JFM, who are the real estate arm, have reached out to a number of the neighbors to tell them what we're considering.
Yeah.
There is a mixed desire, but the word buffer was used multiple times, and we're fully prepared to accomplish that.
Concerns about I'm reading from the Conservation Advisory Council comments, concerned about the loss of green space, obviously, but, impervious surface, and that would have to be engineered, of course. They also stated that you have a lot right across the street, right? I guess it's across Fagan. You have a lot. The comment, again, I'm just reading the comments from the Conservation Advisory Council. They state that it appears to be underutilized and not well maintained, and that there might be an opportunity to enhance or do something with that lot to increase your capability for car stowage there also.
Certainly. So we took over that property June 1st, the entire property, and that is certainly in our plans. We do operate differently than a lot of other car dealers. We have great plans for both the Kia dealership as it exists, the property that as it exists across the street, and then hopefully this lot as well.
Okay. And they're concerned whether or not it fits with the existing comprehensive plan, which, this board will take a look at. And I haven't had the opportunity to examine the comprehensive plan yet on that. So that's the comments that we received. And this is the first time the board has, seen the application and had the opportunity to talk about it. So, my viewpoint is that to take a ride over, they're obviously concerned about impacts on the neighborhood, the neighbors that would be left behind. I know that the site can be engineered, right? Anything can be engineered, put enough money in it to make sure it works okay. So it's really whether or not, it fits with the neighborhood and what the impact to the neighbors are, For this lot, would this be a lot that, is it just stowage, or would it be cars? Like if, somebody came in to look at a car, you'd hop in a golf cart and you would take them out to this lot to take a look at it, that kind of thing? Or
Theoretically, it could be a show lot as well as a storage lot.
so it'd be show lot, and so it'd be lit, obviously, because of security reasons and
It would be
everything.
lit for both safety, security, but also we would absolutely use lighting at the proper level and with the proper buffering to make sure there's no
Right.
light pollution to the neighbors
Yep.
to either side of us.
Yep, like,
Is the lot intended at all to have customer parking?
No, not in that area. Well, the goal is, right now, we struggle with customer parking in our current lot because as inventory grows, we're kind of at a constraint. So this would allow us sales customer parking and service customer parking that we struggle with right now. If you drive through our lot, it's an unpleasant experience.
Okay, so maybe you're getting at the deeper question I was asking. So what's primarily driving the need for this new lot?
So it's threefold. Number one, customer sales parking. Number two, customer service parking, which on our existing plan it was tight when we got there, and it's gotten tighter as Kia continues to send us inventory as we start to grow. We inherited a current backup plan, which is a month-to-month off-site inventory lot, which at any point could go away, and then we have a big problem. So we're looking for a more permanent plan that, helps the stability of our business and keeps us also. Right now, we're about 1.5 miles down the road, so we're constantly rolling cars back and forth on State Street. That would take that traffic off of State Street.
Okay, and so this new lot that you're proposing to build, it will only be for the storage of the cars, right? The customer service and customer sales parking will happen on the existing lots.
Yeah, and actually Kia dictates that where those have to be. So they exist there now on the lot, and they will stay in those areas, but at times they're encumbered by, tow trucks that drop off cars in the middle of the night and or employee parking. So this will it'll be an inventory display lot that a customer could walk over and look at a car. I don't want to tell you that we're going to bring the car over to the other lot every single time.
Yep.
I think that would be a statement that I couldn't back up.
Yep. How about it's 100, there's like 3 properties, I believe, involved, right, for the acquisition?
Correct.
And it's, you stated, it's yields 144 spaces.
Correct.
Did your homework to come up with the 144? Is that, is it just I got 3 lots and I can fit 144? Or what's your actual need?
Yeah, so the history of this dealership, when they were using down on Morris Road, the lot that we have down there was completely full, and we had 250 cars on Morris Road. We anticipate that volume will continue to grow as Kia continues to support our inventory needs. And if it does get to that level, we'll still get to a point where we have to figure something out beyond this. So this was a maximization of that space for current needs, not even long-term growth.
Okay.
Have you looked, I'm sorry if I missed this, have you looked at the acquisition of 4002 State Street, that one on the other side of Fagan? What about that lot it's kind of an unsightly building with a large surface lot? Have you explored the acquisition there?
4002 State Street. I have not.
So it's on the other side of Fagan.
Directly across where the battery.
Yeah,
stores?
I'm looking online.
Yeah, Laura, on page
Do you own that?
54?
Yeah, it's actually
Yeah,
up
that's
on the
right there.
screen that it's like directly across Fagan as this.
That
Oh,
white
directly across Fagan.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I think this is the one you said you recently acquired.
So that's part of our property, actually. That's our reconditioning center.
That's your reconditioning center. What's that mean?
So when a used car is brought in, before we can sell it to a customer, it goes through a reconditioning process to get it as close to like new as possible. And so we have our employees down on that lot who have a couple of bays to work with inside and some tools, and that's where cars are taken for that process.
It appears to me, and I'll let others speak, that the utilization of that lot's pretty inefficient. I mean, it's a donut, right? And it's surrounded by surface area. Could that be reconfigured to allow for parking? I mean, rather than take down 3 houses, can you reconfigure that site to accomplish your goals?
So if, based on the picture, and I don't know when that picture is from, if you were to go there now, it is full. There's cars all the way around it. Could we, and do we need to kind of square off lines and figure out where the property edges are and make more use? Yeah, and that'll get us 15 to 20 more cars on that lot, but nowhere near what we need.
Do you recondition Kias only?
No.
So your Matthews Auto Enterprise
Yes.
does all their reconditioning on Fagan there?
No, I'm sorry. We recondition, so that's the Kia store's recondition center. The Hyundai store we own on the other side of the street has bays attached to the building where they do recondition.
Okay.
That was something that was set up a process before we came in where they did their reconditioning. We kept it that way. So no, for the enterprise consists of 15 dealerships in 5 different markets, and each one has a reconditioning center.
How are you on parking at the Hyundai dealership?
About as bad. And Hyundai is actually ahead of Kia with inventory resupply.
Do you have any other land across the street at the Hyundai dealership?
No.
Any plans to expand that?
Open to anything that's available. Honestly, what we have right now isn't a long-term solution. What we have now is a Band-Aid that if the month-to-month agreement with the owner of the lot that we use right now decides that that's no longer available, we have a major problem.
Has something happened to make you think that that'll happen, or?
Not in this market. So
Okay.
I oversee the other markets, and we actually leased space for 500 cars at a mall in Syracuse, New York, and got a notice 20 days before we had to be out, that all cars had to be out, and our month-to-month was ceased. So yes, something happened that said we need better plans than some of these things. And that was another acquisition that we had recently, where we inherited these short-term solutions where we like to implement long-term plans. We feel like this is a much better long-term plan for everybody.
Laura, is it possible to put your mouse on the reconditioning buildings just to help me out?
I will zoom in. I'll zoom in a little.
Because the property, I think it was,
Right there.
was it Mr. Scributinus was talking about is, I think, just slightly south of that reconditioning building.
Oh, no.
No, that's the
It is the
reconditioning
property.
That is,
The white one is the reconditioning.
it is, okay, so it's a,
That's 4002.
so
And the
the,
acquisition will be across the street to your.
Yeah.
house.
no, but your suggestion that, there you go, that, how, is that the one you're suggesting that, because it's contiguous to the existing reconditioning center? Have you explored any of
I
those?
think 4002 State Street is across State Street. Is that correct? The one that you were
No,
saying?
what
You
I
were
was
saying
pointing to,
4002. So yes, I
I'm
got
looking
you.
at the reconditioning center. Yeah, we're on the
I,
same.
I think Chairman Walsh is
I did
asking,
not know that that was a State Street address. I thought that would have been a fake address, so.
yeah, do we know about the property south of the reconditioning center?
This one, this house right
On the
here.
triangular
Yeah.
lot, yeah.
Is that like a house with a pool?
Yeah, I'd say it has a pool. Mhm.
Yeah.
I think the point is, it's, contiguous to the reconditioning center, and it'd be
Yeah.
less impact on the neighborhood because it looks like it's surrounded by, I don't know if that's residential behind it or commercial, because this is a neighborhood commercial zoned district, which allows for both, so.
Would Matthews prefer to have these cars or this inventory that you'll plan on parking in the proposed parking lot? Would they prefer to have them more visible and maybe closer to State Street if it were an option?
Oh, certainly.
So you're choosing not to use that reconditioned center because it just doesn't fit?
No, we're using the reconditioning center.
I mean, let's say theoretically that reconditioned area, that building got leveled, you made that a display,
Mhm.
storage, inventory space, and used a different location for the reconditioning center.
And certainly, we would have to entertain every option if this isn't an option, but the footprint of that space does not accomplish what we're accomplishing here. And from what the conversation that we entered into on this home pre-existed our takeover. So we continued a conversation that are already started with the owner of the homes.
Of these three homes?
There's two homes. There's one home with a lot next to it and then another home.
It's three different property owners, though?
It's three different properties?
Two
different
homes.
property owners.
Gotcha.
And the key thing, just to reiterate, Laura, in this picture we're currently looking at, where the proposed parking lot is, and the houses to the west of it, those are all single-family homes in a commercial highway.
Yeah,
Zoning.
they're single-family homes. The zoning does appear to be commercial highway. I could bring up a different map. The boundary to Colony is down here, kind of between, I know you can't really read the numbers. Between 41 and 8, that's about where the town of Colony starts.
Oh, no way.
But so you've essentially got 3 single-family homes on the side of this property and a substantial amount of green space here. And this proposal would remove both 17 and 33 and this vacant lot, which is labeled 25 with the trees on here. And it would only leave one single-family home on that side of the street, 41, which is very concerning to the CAC because essentially, even though it's own commercial highway, that's really not the use, it's single-family. And so you would just be carving out one single-family home would be left. And that's what they were getting at with their concerns about changes to the neighborhood. It's a residential neighborhood.
Right,
now.
but that single-family home is in Colony.
Nope, that
It's
single
not-
family
that's in
home is in Niskayuna. The Colony border starts where kind of like
There, okay.
interior auto. And
Further there, okay.
And so that's a commercial establishment on the other side of them.
So obviously
We would be
then,
pinning them between commercial and commercial. Ideally,
Hmm.
if the owner of that home was willing to sell as the others were, I feel like we'd accomplish a lot with some of the concerns. At this point, we wanted to get an idea from the planning board that maybe that's one of our next moves. We also have, some backup plans that we think, okay, if we need buffering, how could we offer buffering in such a way that it would be
Yep. Yeah.
respected or
You know,
appreciated?
if we get down the road far enough where, obviously you don't want to invest in engineering till you can get some feedback, whether everybody looks favorable upon the thing. But no, there's no doubt about it. If it does go forward, we'd want, I see you had your sketch showed some trees there, but we would want, maximize the buffering to the neighbors, the existing neighbors that were left behind at a minimum, and cut off fixtures, the things that you talked about to make sure there's no impact.
Certainly a starting point
yeah.
for us and absolutely expecting.
What time do you close over there? Or
So Monday through Thursday at 7:00, Friday at 6:00, Saturday at 5:00. We're closed on Sundays.
so there wouldn't be a lot of nighttime activity then on.
Not a lot of nighttime activity. The other thing that's great about it is, from a noise perspective, it's parking. So there's nothing's changing from a noise perspective. Everything from an operational standpoint is staying on the lot that we are.
This was formerly owned by Fusillo, correct?
Our current operations, yes.
And do you know how long that was in operation?
I don't.
It's been there a while.
Oh, yeah.
Can you help me understand, because I know nothing about auto dealerships.
Okay.
What has changed that your inventory needs, your inventory capacity has to grow by, as far as I can tell, 50% on this one site?
So it's not what has changed. It's the opportunity to replace a current operation, which is 1.5 miles down the road, where we store between 200 and 400 cars. So Hyundai shares that with Kia. Hyundai has cars down there too. This is just the Kia problem. We still have this problem at Hyundai. So nothing has changed from we're that much better that we can sell that many more cars. I wish that was the case.
Yeah.
But our planning volume for that store that's dictated by Kia supports a level of inventory twice what we have right now. They just haven't been able to deliver on it. We took this over on the back end of the pandemic when inventory was at its worst level. So as it starts to come back, we had one snowstorm, and you take the current situation where we have those lots packed in a snowstorm, and it gets dangerous. So we plan ahead. We take all those cars down the road to Morris Road before the snowstorm. So we're moving 100 to 150 cars down the road so that we can be prepared for a snowstorm. This gives us the ability to operate in a safer way. And selfishly, a more stable answer to our business plan than a back of a napkin agreement, which is really what we have. It's an email.
For the Morris Road
Correct.
storage?
Yeah.
Where on Morris Road is that?
I probably should know that as well.
It's not in Schenectady County.
It's about 1.5 miles from the dealership. I've actually never gone down there to see it. I've seen aerial maps, but I don't know the area that well. We're new to the area.
I'm not sure if that's Colony or Schenectady,
Yeah, it might.
Morris Road.
I mean,
So
in that area.
I want to say it's Colony because when you come out of the dealership, if you turn right on State Street, I know that our Hyundai dealership is half in Niskayuna, half in Colony. The
Yeah.
upper lot's in Niskayuna, the lower half's in Colony. So it would probably be in Colony.
Mm.
Yeah, so I think you're hearing, the biggest obviously concern is, taking residential and, putting in the parking lot, right? And the impact on the existing neighbors that are there.
Correct.
You got a good point there that apparently when you get to Colony, past that one home that would be left by this proposal, that's also commercial, that's in the town of Colony.
Yes.
So if that home wasn't here, it'd be, it'd be commercial all the way down Fagan from,
I think that
the
supports,
whole street,
I think that helps.
on that side.
Yeah.
It's still the backyard, So, I always think of myself, if I lived over there, it's a tough one because, there's something to be said to your comment that, hey, at night, there's no noise and, if there's trees, it's a parking lot, versus the other potential things that could happen in a neighborhood commercial zoning district, right? I mean, there's other things that could happen in this zoning district besides expansion of the Kia, you know?
Correct,
But my only pushback point on that is that it's not a really vacant site. I mean, there's one vacant site between the two lots. So you could, like, if you were going to move in and you could say, oh, that's commercial highway, like you could probably get a business there. But this is actually developed as a single family.
I understand.
Yeah. So I do feel like there isn't really like, oh, this is a commercial highway district. Like you should be allowed to, you know, just have a big thing here.
Oh.
I think it's different. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, so, I mean, but you have to look at the zoning code, what's allowed in a neighborhood commercial district, right?
Right, but
So-
it's not a vacant, it's really not a vacant property. It's an established.
I understand, but-
Single-family neighborhood.
But somebody else could come in, my point is somebody else could come in and say, I want to take down these two homes and put something else there besides a parking lot that's allowed in the neighborhood commercial zoning district. They-
And I would probably
Yeah.
say the same thing to them.
Yep,
because
I understand.
Right now, a single family.
I'm just, my,
It is, and I would, and I'm not familiar with,
Yeah.
precedent.
Yeah.
But it is zoned properly for what we're asking to
Right,
do.
with a
And I-
special
I
use
just
permit,
wanna
yep.
Subject to
ask
Yep.
that.
special use.
And
Yep.
the people on the street to the north, is that
West,
north?
west,
West of
yes,
us,
yeah.
Yeah.
have lived in a commercial highway district for as long as they've lived there.
yeah,
Correct? So if I were to ask them, what have we done or previously been done that's made that less desirable? And then how would adding silent parking change that? I think it would be aesthetics only, which we're fully prepared to separate the properties with some sort of natural or unnatural buffer, whatever, whatever makes sense to the neighbors and the planning board.
And if they want both? If they want a fence along with maybe a line of arborvitae's
Right.
or,
Here's what I would tell you. We want to be good neighbors. So anything that they ask within reason, absolutely.
it just, and I have a concern that it certainly looks like you're carving out. I have a concern with this one resident, honestly. And it's kind of like you're kind of growing, and I get it. Great for commerce, great. I'm glad you guys are selling cars. But I have another question is that where are you dropping off the cars? I'm hoping it's not in the middle of State Street.
So we don't drop off the cars.
Okay.
Actually, Kia sends the cars to us. We don't control the transporters. I have seen transporters stop in the middle of State Street, but they're not Kia. They are other people who we have sold cars to that are coming to pick them up, and they parked in the middle of State Street. And they said, is that okay? I said, I can't imagine it is.
No,
That's
that's
up to
very
police.
unacceptable. That's like an accident waiting to happen.
So great news. Certainly, there's nowhere for them to go on our lot right now to pick up the car because of our constraints. So if part of this was creating a pickup and drop off point within that lot that we're considering, I'm doing that exact thing with a Kia dealership in Syracuse, New York, where
Just a pushback point though, like you need to have a safe place to drop off the cars with or without additional
do.
land.
we do,
That
And it's
can't,
down
that
on-
can be a reason to buy more additional land. You need to have that on site.
but I'm not saying it's us.
Yeah, well,
We do it differently,
yeah.
but we don't control other companies who come to us.
But if they're coming to you, you could say, hey, you can't drop your cars in the middle of a major highway.
No, no, I take that back. They're not dropping cars there. This guy came to pick up a car, and this was one instance. And I told him, I don't think that's a good idea. I can't imagine it's allowed. And they can go down to Fagan, drop off on Fagan, and loop around and get back to where they need to get to.
Now, this is a car transporter?
Yes,
So now you have a car transporter going down what might be a residential
it was a
street?
two-car transporter, so it was a extended tow truck.
Okay.
Everything you're saying, though, I agree with. There has to be a safe plan. And no, this isn't the answer to that. But if the planning board said, hey, we want to make sure that this is the designated place where cars are dropped off, and then we could, right now, the trucking companies get a address that shows our lot. It doesn't include any of that. So if we said, here is the new address for the drop-off point, which would be on Fagan, because our address is 3900 State Street, maybe we could use that to help that problem. If this doesn't get approved, that doesn't exempt me from making a change.
What
I understand.
the resident that you're essentially, for lack of better terms, isolating there, were they the ones that had the dissent, the issue with what you were doing? I'm curious.
I will walk you through that. We haven't approached them yet.
So
Mainly-
they don't know what's going on?
I'm not saying they don't know what's going on from talking to their neighbors. We were approached with the opportunity because there were conversations prior to our takeover that if we were interested in the same idea from the immediate adjacent neighbor, that was our initial plan. That was our only plan. He came to us. He spoke to the next neighbor who came and said, I'm interested as well. At that point, we said, let's get under contract and make sure that I can't buy this one and leave the guy in the middle. That's worse. I have a sequence right now. If the planning board were to say, this makes sense to us, and it makes even more sense if you acquire that last house, certainly I'm going to go and ask that person if they're interested. If they say no, that's certainly up to them to do that. But I also don't want to then say, well, now you're going to be next to a parking lot. That's not fair to them either.
But they get notice, right, Laura? They're gonna get some
Well,
notice.
They're going to get more than just notice, in that we plan on visiting personally that house and then every house on Amherst, telling them what we're planning to do.
That's always a good
In
idea.
advance of
Yep.
the meetings so that I can know ahead of time.
Yep.
If there's pushback.
Yep, and I would suggest you
Yeah.
take that initiative sooner than later.
We are.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we would like, at least for the owners, the two owners that have agreed so far, we would like to see some indication of that, whether it's a letter or a statement or coming in.
Provided that to us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we do have
We
signed
that?
agreements.
Okay, all right, yeah.
The only
So-
thing we're waiting on is the actual, there's two documents where they're approving, I don't know, site plan or.
Yeah, so they're allowing you to speak on their behalf. or whatever.
Allowing them to speak on behalf of prior to.
Yeah, giving you permission to
We are under
represent them.
contract.
So should we suggest to them to go talk to that final house?
Well, I think you should talk to everybody, not just about purchase, but just so they're aware of the project. It's
Certainly.
always good. There's other applicants that are very good at doing that and, getting, get some feedback, and it helps you out, right? But here's where I'm thinking we need to go, and tell me if I'm wrong, but it's just from a engineering standpoint or a site plan standpoint, it's pretty straightforward, right? And it's a parking lot, right? We already have the drawings. We're going to need to have a public hearing. Is the right thing to do? Just go ahead and have the public hearing. In the meantime, we have to have a resolution calling for the public hearing. So that would be at the next meeting. And so the public hearing wouldn't be till the first meeting in February. That gives you time to talk to neighbors. People get to see what's going on, and then everybody can come on in and we can hear what they have to say, because that's the right way to do it, I think personally.
It's not that straightforward to me. I was truly astonished that these properties are in highway commercial. And I think when these houses were built, that zoning did not exist. I think the houses are all older. So we're really taking an older neighborhood, it's more affordable, and wiping a fair portion of it out. And I have concerns with that.
I have concerns as well. To Jengus's question, I think that leaving one house sandwiched between commercials is like a deal breaker.
Yeah.
But as far as like just go out and reach out to that home, like I have concerns about taking down single family homes and putting up a parking lot right in that neighborhood, because State Street really is the commercial corridor, and I am concerned that there's a decent number, and I can pull my map up so you can really see the line between us and Colony, but it's really residential once you hit Niskayuna. It's very similar to when you're driving down Route 7 and you hit Niskayuna, like from Colony to here. It's very similar, especially when you're like driving down Albany Street. And my concern is that it's a special use permit, so it's not outright permitted, but if you start allowing these single family side streets to flip into commercial, it's that there would potentially then, well, what's going to happen to the homes on South Amherst? And I feel like if we don't think that's appropriate, I think right now is the time to say that it's not appropriate, because once you let these homes be taken down to put commercial and allow that commercial creep into these single family homes, it's going to be very hard to say no to the next street and the next street. And this is the only residential part we have south of State Street there.
We encountered this issue many years ago with, I think it's R.J. Murray. And we were of a mind then to say no.
And I understand that this has to be looked at what's best for the town of Niskayuna. I also understand that the zoning law has some allowability for us to even start this conversation. I do know that around the corner from us, if you go down Albany Street, there's a McDonald's and a gas station that connect Albany Street and State Street. So we're not, there's commercial within
That's
the
in
vicinity.
Colony though.
Okay. Is it?
It's a
Well,
fun
are you
line.
talking about once Albany and State Street are super close together? And there's a McDonald's and
Are
Dunkin'.
you talking Midland?
No, he's talking.
He's
about
talking as you go
Mohawk
towards
Commons.
Mohawk Commons.
Oh, yeah. But so the difference with that is that there's only one block between Albany Street and State Street. And those businesses there are double fronted. So it's just a single block with double fronted businesses. The concern for me here is that these are essentially like multi-block residential neighborhoods that are adjacent to State Street that are being changed with this proposal. That's my concern.
And when we looked at RJ Murray, my understanding from that was that on both sides, that zoning only went like 200 feet. That it didn't extend to the lots beyond.
So we actually,
So you're on the
Confirmed
other
with the town ahead
side,
of
but
time.
I'm not,
I
I
believe
don't know
we're-
why it would be so different.
It is zoned commercial highway, but I don't think that it is a special use permit, which gives us the allowance to really look at how it's affecting the neighborhood, which is why I really would caution, like, just saying, yeah.
Yeah, so Laura, I agree 1,000,000% with the last point you made. Caution and the effect of the neighborhood is something that I think we need to be overly, clear, sensitive, and, and precise about. The thing that's weighing on me is that it is zoned commercial highway. And we happen to have some residential homes in this commercial highway zone. Right? And so I got to go back and check my notes, but this is sounding very familiar to when we put in the Albany Med Emergent Care on Union Street. And there were several single-family homes that had to be bought up by the developer,
Zoned RP.
right? Agreed, right? But there were single-family homes in that RP zone, right? I remember I had to go talk to some specific homeowners to make sure that they could give an honest assessment of, are you getting strong-armed into selling your home, et cetera. So, I mean, that's the thing here, right? The thing here is that the basic zoning
And you're still-
competes now between a business and commercial highway and the residential home and commercial highway.
Yeah, I'm just,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
I mean, you guys obviously know where I stand, but I
Mhm.
just think you have to be really careful with precedent
Yeah.
here.
Well, the thing is, we got an application that we have to act on, right? I mean, we can talk to Ms. Finnan. We have an application we need to act on. And that's why I suggest if we just have the public hearing, we could hear from everybody. And, we have to make a recommendation if we're going to take it through the process, right? Is that correct? That we'd have to take it through the process. So if we don't like what we hear and we've made up our minds that we don't like the project, and then we'll give it a negative referral to the town board. But I think we need to take it through the process.
and may I ask a question, Laura? If the final neighbor on Fagan and all of the neighbors on Amherst said, we're fine with it, we don't care, would your opinion change? Or is it, okay, I didn't know if this was, you were worried about them, because I am.
Yeah.
But it's
I have-
important to me to hear what they have to say
Yeah,
personally.
yeah,
That's why,
both of us to hear what they have to
Hear
say,
what
right?
they have
Yeah.
to say, and it's important to me for them to say,
Yeah.
we would be okay with this if, because at some point, if they say, this is what we need, and the board says, yeah, that makes sense, and it doesn't make sense for us, then that kills the project in and of itself. But I want you to know that our goal isn't to change into something else. It's to recognize that there's people around where we want to operate, that have lived there already, that we don't want their experience to be negative. We want it to stay what it is or get better. And to Chairman's point, if that's zoned commercial highway, there are other things that could be approved.
but they could come forward and they go through the same
Correct,
process.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's where a parking lot is the least invasive of anything that could go there.
That's debatable.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm not
Right,
being
it is.
disrespectful to
I
like.
take that back. Yeah, take that back. A
Yeah, that's
park
all,
would be nice
that's
too.
all a matter of
So,
opinion.
Yeah, highest and
I
best
take
use of
back my
parking lot
statement,
does
Leslie.
not normally come
Yeah.
out as
Yeah.
the highest and best use in our zoning district.
Yeah, I was taking a shot for myself that I missed. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and I'm not being disrespectful to people's opinions. It's just that I'm the planner, and even if everyone on Amherst that, whose backyards abutted this property said I'm okay with it, I still, as a planner, would be concerned about the changes that would occur over time to the neighborhood that I'm trained to recognize. So if they're kind of okay to be like, well, it's going to be a quiet neighbor, and I'm okay as long as you plant a bunch of trees, it wouldn't change my opinion of what the concern is with this application.
Okay, I understand that.
Yeah, I mean,
Along those lines of, highest and best use, assuming that this board can kind of wrap their heads around, the effect on the comprehensive plan and seeing how this kind of fits into that. I think it almost goes without saying, but we'd want to, in the design process, look at ways to minimize the amount of impervious surface. And I think we'd have to explore all alternatives to the reconfiguration of existing asphalt at both your dealership and the reconditioning site across the street. And to that end, I'm curious to know just sort of a minor point, but I notice right now that your dealership, it appears, can't actually access the reconditioning site without going onto State Street. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
That is correct. That would be great. I don't know why it was, I don't know if there was a request at some point that was denied. To me, that's a very inefficient way to access that. And actually, there's a hill there with green space on it and a walkway that could just be widened to drive down.
My guess
For
is
safety.
like that, it's because you wouldn't want a commercial entrance onto a residential road.
yeah.
Well, they've got plenty of asphalt frontage on Fagan.
Yep.
With that
It's-
reconditioning site.
Yeah. Again, but that wasn't their site to begin with. They took it over. Like you can tell that there used to be a different business on there. Yeah.
No, it says Fusillo on the side of the building from
Yeah,
Google
that
Street
was
View.
Fusillo's. We didn't buy that after the fact. That
All
was
I'm
part of the
saying
package.
is, if we progress further down this road, I'd like to have a more comprehensive view of all existing impervious surface, all existing parking spaces
Yep.
that Matthews Kia has.
That's a good comment.
And
Yep.
I'd like to know too, number of parking spaces, how many are devoted to visitors and customers, how many are devoted to existing staff, what you need for new cars, what you need for used inventory, and the number you're trying to get to,
Certainly.
so we can really understand
Certainly.
what you can squeeze out of this site.
Correct. And at this point, we have a desire and a concept. But just like it is on a car deal, we got to start somewhere.
Exactly.
So,
It says
so we think.
We've
that this
established
is-
the outer bound.
Yeah, this is an
probably.
idea that we feel, and we thought based on zoning, we had the right to come and ask.
Yeah.
Because obviously, if the zoning's not there, there's just not even an option.
Yeah.
But the homeowners are thrilled because they desire to exit already. You're not going to sell your house for.
You got a
under
vacant
market
lot.
value,
You
but-
got a vacant lot there that is probably worth more to Matthews Kia than
Than anyone.
a potential new
Yeah, that's-
resident.
I mean, if you live next to a business who needs your property,
I don't see anybody buying that lot and building a house.
I do.
Well, show them to me. I don't know.
yeah,
Land.
so I guess
We can
we
see
looked
it.
at this as
Next year.
that from our standpoint and the owner's standpoint, we could put something together that made sense for both parties. Now it's Matthews and the planning board that needs to put something together that works for both Town of Niskayuna and Matthews Auto. We are fully prepared to do that. We just need to know what that looks like and, what we can do to mitigate any concerns that our future neighbors, our current neighbors and any future neighbors might have.
Thank you.
One of the items that maybe you don't have to answer it now, but if you could bring it to the next meeting, is what your amount of sales are from people that actually come to visit the showroom versus online sales. I know that I just recently bought a vehicle and the salesperson actually said, you're one of the few people that actually came to test drive it. A lot of the sales are literally online and they come to the dealership because that's where they purchase it through. So just curious to know.
So are you saying, when you say online, are you saying someone that completely handles the purchase online, comes in and picks up the car and leaves?
Buys it off your website?
Okay, I can tell you it's less than 2%.
Really?
People still need to touch, smell, feel, and we require them to test drive the car. So we'll set an appointment. We'll do a lot online through our business development center, but I would say, especially it's next to impossible in New York to do it all online because there's so many wet signatures required. So people come into the showroom, they'll see the car. It's never purchased before they show up.
Okay.
Would we like to be the Carvana of the world in the future at some point? If we could figure that out, I'd love to offer that to people. But right now, 98% of our sales, company-wide,
Mhm.
are started online and finished in store, or started in store and finished in store.
Okay, thanks.
So, yeah, so Kevin, my only recommendation would be, I think it would be useful to have at least one more meeting where we've have evaluated the parking and looked at buffers before we call for a public hearing, because we would, right now, I mean, I don't know, it's kind of up to you, but we don't really have a configuration that we've vetted before calling for a public
Yeah, I
hearing.
mean, we got the drawing that was submitted, I guess it'd be page 56 of the packet there, if you looked at it, where it shows landscaping, snow storage, and the trees. Obviously, that may not be sufficient if this were to go forward, the number of trees, species, whatever, right? I mean, it's good, Mr. McPartland questioned about, some more details on, you got, obviously you have mechanics too, so you got in-house parking sales, some kind of distribution of what you have over there so we can better understand your need. And I also like the comment that, you got this property and the reconditioning center, what opportunities to jive them all together, to help you, with minimizing the impact to the neighborhood and the amount of additional parking that you need to, at least to evaluate some of that. Whether that needs to be done before a public hearing, I mean, that's up to the board.
Well, calling for a public hearing the public hearing does set a timeline, right? Where, yeah.
I think it does. Yeah.
It does, right? So, I mean, maybe that's one reason for having maybe another meeting before the public hearing.
And we got the packet Friday night.
Yeah. So I think I would support maybe having another meeting.
Okay.
Than calling for a public hearing. But I think to be specific, right, I also like what Mr. McPartland said, is there some kind of comprehensive view of what you're doing on both properties?
To elaborate on that, Kia in and of itself, when we take over a Kia dealership, has a requirement that we bring the facility up to their current standards. So obviously, we're going to be coming back at some point when they give us their final design for that, which will and might have initials at this point, a layout of how they see the lot. Here's where they want customer parking. Here's where they want employee parking. So we will have that soon if we don't have that already.
Including both properties, the reconditioning center and the main property?
No.
No, right?
So
What
we'll
you
work
said is
on
for the main
reconditioning
property.
center. Yeah, I'll work with our team to
Yeah.
make sure that the owner and I, Rob Matthews was in town and we walked a lot in the reconditioning center. It has some efficiencies that can be gained. We don't know where the property lines are. There's grass growing in some spots where it looks like there's gravel. So it needs to be cleaned up. The building needs to be cleaned up. It needs to meet Matthews standards. It also needs to meet Niskayuna standards.
That's cool. You guys bought the property without surveying it. Awesome.
Yeah.
But out of curiosity, is that line that we see that's adjacent to the Adirondack woodshed likely the property line, or you have no idea?
I'm unfamiliar.
So right next, so to the west, there's the Adirondack woodshed commercial building.
On State Street, you're talking about?
On
Yeah,
State
State
Street,
Street.
yeah.
Yeah.
On State Street.
So
Where,
the reconditioning building is
Yes,
between
okay, yeah.
your facility and the Adirondack woodshed.
Okay.
And it looks like there's a line that's pretty close to the Adirondack woodshed. That could be your property line.
Oh, I think we have a good idea. I think it's not,
precise?
it might be precise. When you walk it, it's not obvious. And it's also, the lot wasn't, it doesn't have square edges and,
Right.
and it's not clean. So if you were to pave that, stripe that, and actually figure out how many cars you can put there, certainly that lends to a conversation with the
Yeah.
planning board to say, okay, this is what we do have for capacity there. Here's what we have for capacity at 3,900. And then I can show you the need for the additional space, and we can determine if our current plan is acceptable to all parties.
Laura, I had a question for you on the main property. I don't know if you can go to the colored plot, but the setback that's currently green space to the parking lot that exists from Fagan,
Mhm.
does that setback, I don't know what the distance is. We got to look at the code, but is there any room to cut some of that greenery out and extend that parking lot?
You mean it's something that you could ask? I don't know what the grade is.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's something you could
It's
ask.
significant.
The grade is
It's steep.
significant?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not that it couldn't be overcome, but currently it's steep.
Okay. So you'll have to do like one of those Land Rover things like the Jaguar guys.
Yeah, no, I'm certain there's cars we could park there that
Sure you
look
could.
really cool, but not without permission.
And I would also be interested in security provisions.
With regard to the new space.
Yep.
And so certainly lighting, but help me understand what else I could consider.
Are you planning cameras or anything?
So we have cameras in the current building. We'll certainly tie cameras into the light poles that are on that lot. Yes. We've already experienced enough at Hyundai that.
That's part of why
Which
I'm
is-
saying that
Yep,
it's
no,
debatable that it's quiet parking.
Yep.
Which is always going to be a challenge for residents and their
Correct.
privacy.
My dealer had major vandalism
Yeah.
and quiet parking, yeah.
Yeah, the good news is they're quiet about it because they never get caught. The bad news is that they're pretty good at what they do.
Yeah. Okay, so sounds like we got some things that you can look into, right? We'll have it back on the agenda at the next meeting. Obviously, it sounds like you want to talk to the neighbors, and that's always good, you know.
We'll make that a priority.
And I mean, sooner or later, we will have a public hearing.
Yep.
I would expect most likely at the next meeting, if we get the information, some more information, have another discussion, that we'll probably call for the public hearing would be my guess. And then we'll hear directly from anybody who has concerns or supports it. And we'll listen to everybody. So
That's all I can ask.
that's all you can ask for, right? We'll just take it forward. Any other thoughts, comments?
The only other
questions?
thought I had is if you reconfigure, if you throw this all up in the air and you remeasure and you got a survey completed, let's say, you know, would the dealership or would the enterprise be interested or open to replacing a home to keep the same or a similar number of homes in that geography?
Let me, if you will, counter with this. There's an existing home, there's a vacant property, and then there's a second home. If we owned that last home and you said, keep that as a home for now, if you can't buy the other one, and now we are our own buffer to that. Again, I'm looking at everything as an option because I understand your job. And I think you understand what we're trying to accomplish. Certainly, our goal isn't to go in without thinking and destroy a neighborhood. Our goal is to run a business as well as we can and be successful, well, considering the fact that we do it in an area that is adjacent to residential homes. And I fully acknowledge that that's a different level of respect that we have to give to this process.
Great, thank you. All right, so we'll see you at the next meeting, and, that'll give the opportunity for the public to, if they watch the video or if they hear about it, the package is online, so they have the opportunity to take a look at it.
Do you feel you have enough guidance coming out of this meeting on what you're going to bring to the next meeting?
Yeah.
Because I think we should, okay.
Yeah, no, I
Just be
think
specific.
I understand that, number one, you want to see a more comprehensive plan as to the entire parcel, how we're going to use all of it, and then data to support the need for that, as well as maybe some other options, and along the way, knowledge that we're going to gain concerns from the neighbors and hopefully come with those pre-addressed.
Right, and by entire parcel, meaning including the
Yes.
reconfiguration.
Yeah, so it's
All
going
the
to be
property that we own.
3,900,
Yep.
4,002, and the
Okay,
perspective.
perfect, thank you.
Yep, thank you.
All right, I appreciate your time.
Yeah, and thank you for coming tonight.
Okay, this one's hard.
Okay. Where are we? All right, 2635 Balltown Road, that's Trinity Baptist Church, site plan application for clearing and grading. We haven't had this on the agenda for a while, but Mr. McPartland, can I leave it to you? Or we have
So
anybody
we have a
here?
revised
Oh,
site
sorry,
plan.
did we have somebody here representing the applicant? Or online? No? No, okay. Sorry.
So we have a revised site plan that addressed some of the board's questions about grading on the southern property boundary. We also have some notes, or we have a note about tree preservation, and there's mention of a residential buffer, but we do not have detail on any kind of a planting plan, how the buffer will be achieved. So I think most of this can be addressed in conditions. I was hoping we could get some information from the applicant, or at least hear from them on the 25-foot buffer for wetlands and the requirement that we typically have for the split rail fence. As you know, pretty much the entire proposed recreational fields have a wetland buffer. So I think it would be nice to have. I think it's important that we delineate that somehow.
Yeah. That's, Laura, I don't know if you can pull up page 61 that shows the wetlands on the map. Thank you, Mr. McPartland, and that's a good comment. One thing I was trying to think about, if maybe, Laura, you can clarify, would that require split rail fence around pretty much the whole site is what we're looking at, or is there another way to accomplish that to also minimize the amount of fence, I guess would be my question.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty close to the whole site.
Yeah,
They do have that permit to, fill right here and right here.
yeah,
But in the end, you'd end up with a split rail fence all along the back property line and actually between the recreational area and the church, because this is all wetland as well. And this would be the residential buffer that Patrick was referring to. My understanding is it was really just a not clearing there buffer.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, like, my recommendation would be to put a split rail fence there too. Only because of creep over time. The fence is the only thing that seems to protect things, especially like when it's clearing and playing, then a creep happens. But
So-
I do agree with you that I think a lot of it can be addressed in conditions.
Yeah, it'd be nice to talk to them about the split rail fence. I know it was in the agenda notes, or do they understand that, you think, or?
Clark talks to them more than I do, but I don't recall them objecting to a split rail fence. I think the note wasn't added to the plans. You want to comment?
Laura, I thought it actually was added to the plan.
I'm looking at it.
I don't think so.
I thought they added a note, the fence at the wetland buffer.
I didn't see it. Unless I'm wrong. I looked at it a couple of times, but sometimes I'm wrong. There's no question about it.
Yeah, I don't see it on this one.
But I agree with you, Clark. I don't think they ever objected to putting it on.
I mean, I personally would rather see this get cleaned up once and for all on the site plan drawing and not have a bunch of conditions. This project has kicked around for a long time. I think if there are open items, it would be nice to just get them on the drawing and be done with it and have a nice, clean resolution.
On a practical basis, I don't think they're going to do much for a couple months.
Yeah, that's a good point, Clark. And the other thing is if they actually put the split rail fence on a drawing versus a note, then I think it's very clear where it's going to go and how much they need, because it looks like it's quite extensive. I don't think a note does it justice, is my opinion, but that's
It
just
is
my
on there.
opinion.
It is on there. It's the bolded dashed short dash line that runs up against the edge of the crosshatch.
There you go, marked by a post and rail
You have to-
fence.
If you zoom in, I can zoom in with my software.
Oh.
It's delineated on the edge of
Oh, I
that,
see.
of the,
Yeah.
see the crosshatch.
Okay, gotcha. I see it now. So it's in the legend there, yep.
Good catch, David.
Yep.
Okay.
It's hard to see from a small print.
So that does basically encompass everything, so.
So really, I think there was a proposed edit to the tree preservation just to make that more clear. That we do not want any of those white pines to be disturbed if at all possible.
Yeah, that language I pulled right out of the code. It's pretty easy for them to cut and paste that on there.
So,
Yeah, so you were totally right, Clark.
So the only update would be the details on leaving the growth intact that's there to act as a buffer and adding any tree preservation that's not on there. Is that it?
Clark, I'll let you, do you think we could tentatively call for a resolution? And what's the likelihood that between now and the next meeting, we could see such a minor revision? Are you generally dealing with Ms. Healy or?
Mr. Noyes.
Yeah, Mr. Noyes.
No, I believe it's Mr. Noyes is the primary contact now. And I do agree with Leslie that there's typically quite a pause in between responses just because they probably have a lot of other things going on. I think they're very close. Whether they would have that by the next planning board meeting, which I think is only 2 weeks, that's a tough call. I'm not sure.
And yeah, plus I need to get it in advance also of the meeting, so it makes it even tighter, right?
Yeah.
All right, so an option then would be just to give the feedback to have them, Clark or Laura contact them and have them update the drawing so it's complete. And they tell them that when the drawing is submitted and complete, we'll call for a resolution. All right?
Sure.
Does that sound good, Mr. McFarland?
Sounds good to me.
All right. And then, the worst case would be probably early February, they'd have their approval, would be my guess then. Right? Okay. All right. Is everybody okay with that? I don't, just suggestion. Mr. McFarland, you're good?
Yep.
All right, so Clark or Laura, I assume Clark will reach out to them and have them update things and tell them that they're the critical path to their approval. Okay? All right, anything else on 2635 Balltown? No? Okay. All right, next is sketch plan application for 2-lot minor subdivision, lot line adjustment at Antonio Park. This is a new project. And thank you for hanging out with us, and you guys too. Thank you for hanging out with us. I know sometimes it can get long here. Could you introduce yourself and tell us about the project, the application?
Yes. Good evening. My name is Fred Polsinelli. And I want to thank the board for having me here, and also Happy New Year. So this property was part of a roughly 120-acre parcel that my grandfather purchased back in the end of the 1939-ish, give or take. My father actually farmed this property as part of a war effort, helping the war at the time. When he passed, it was heired to his 4 siblings. And then in the sometime in the 60s, the town approached our family to run sewers through the property. So we master planned the parcel. So the town ran the sewers through the paper streets at that time. That was all done. And then since then, our family, they were all in the building business. So all the parcels have been developed. And this is the final 8.5-ish acres of the entire farm. My mother passed, so all the heirs are gone, and I'm just trying to close out the estate. I've tried to sell this property on behalf of the estate as a whole piece. No one seemed to be interested. It was very difficult. It was very overgrown. You literally could not even walk through this property. So I cleared out the underbrush. It's much more visible now. And so I think I'll be more successful in selling it by creating 2 buildable lots. So that's my proposal. I want to make 2 roughly 3-acre lots that will enter from the existing Polsinelli Drive stub street, and basically a house on the right, a house on the left. Okay. And then the back piece, if you look from the right to the left, the back piece is roughly a little over 2 acres. And that will be deeded over to the Lisi Group, whose home is pretty much right where that the writing is. I'll walk over.
Yep, we got it. Right where the cursor's at. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So Lisi's house is right by here, so this would just be, side yard. he purchased that entire parcel adjacent to us from my aunt's estate. So it would be, and actually, this is kind of mirror imaging what Mr. Lisi did with his first $2 off of Vincenzo, who was my grandfather's name. So it's the same concept, two houses off the substreet. The parcel is probably, give or take, 700 feet long, the lots, about 170-ish feet wide. Each one is roughly, I tried to make them as close to 3 acres as I could. We would, it's very little, just we're showing what, these are not actual house locations, right? They're just, they're a concept of, where a house would be, but I don't think anybody, they sit kind of on the high ground. There's a, little bit of a knoll there. So that's the logical place. If I were going to build my house there, that's probably where I would put it. So I grew up off of Van Antwerp Road, which was part of the land as well. My sister still lives there, so our family's been continuous living on this property since 1930, late 30s. Any questions?
So, Mr. Posello, you'd work on the entitlements and then transfer and then sell the property? Is that your plan?
I'm sorry, repeat that?
Your plan is to receive the entitlements, subdivide, and then sell to a builder?
Right.
Hmm.
And at the same time, transfer to leasing, so that doesn't become a landlocked piece of land. So I would end up with just the two building lots.
Yeah, I explained to him that the back part to Lisi would have to automatically get incorporated in that parcel as part of the
Into
subdivision.
Lou Lisi's parcel.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because
And
that's
there-
kind of a lot line adjustment. It's sort of like a lot line adjustment subdivision.
And there are some deed restrictions on some of Lou Lisi's developed lands.
Yep.
Are you familiar with what those were and what you might be asked to do?
Not specifically, well, you're talking about his 17 acres that he subdivided into the 4 lots?
Yeah, but specifically, I guess what I'm going to say is the feedback we might hear is how dense those woods are and how nice it would be to keep them dense.
Yeah, when I went in, actually, I didn't take any mature trees out. I literally just brush hog, basically. And so I left all mature trees and probably some dead ones too. It was so overgrown that trees were starting to get killed off because of all the vines and things. So it's actually nicely open and it's all wooded. So they would just clear whatever they, need for their house and driveway, whatever.
Go ahead.
Specifically, what I'm saying is it's approximate 3 acre plot that you've laid out on each of these parcels, correct?
Yeah, each one of those long rectangulars are 3 acres.
3 acres. And would you you may be requested to deed restrict the development of the backside or the west side of those parcels as owner, so that those remain wooded and there's less erosion and stormwater issues, et cetera, et cetera. That was what I was thinking of when I mentioned the deed restrictions on Lou's property.
Again, I don't think anybody would reasonably put a house beyond where it's shown.
That's fair.
But who knows if they're going, I want to put a pool in or a shed or, they got 3 acres to work with.
Sounds like you're open to it, but you might not see why it would be done, but there's reasons to do it.
From a business perspective, right, from selling these, the least amount of restrictions. We're talking about an area that's zoned for 15,000 square foot lots. We're grandfathered in for 15,000 square foot lots. That strip of land was actually approved on our master plan for 18 houses. We're talking 2 houses on the same piece of land. So
Understood. That's certainly also aligns with the feedback we got for the area, that you're not overdeveloping or maximizing its use. Yeah.
So the parcel that would be transferred to Mr. Lisi, his subdivision has the restrictions I think maybe Chris was getting at also, is that he couldn't do any further subdivision. Do you know what his intent is?
I think because his house is right there,
it's a buffer, so
I
he,
think he just
because
wants
we
that.
would probably, if we had the power, we would probably say no, that would abide by the previous subdivision approvals that we gave, and it would also be subject to no further development also.
Yeah, I'm not aware of
Yeah.
any.
So if you talk to him, you might want to mention that to him if he's not watching the meeting or
He
anything.
just mentioned, because my original intent was just to go
Yeah.
2 lots all the way down. He said, hey, can you just cut me off a piece on the
Right.
back? It'll be my side yard.
So you're just looking to subdivide and then, basically put it up for sale. Do you have somebody that's contingent upon this subdivision
No,
right now?
not yet. It's on the market now as the whole parcel, one
Yep.
piece. And then it's, at some point I'll just change the listing to have
All right.
two lots.
So my question would be for, I guess, Laura.
Sorry, I tried to bring up a map of the. I tried to bring up a map of the deed restrictions in the southern parcel, but it's really hard for you guys to see.
Yeah.
But yeah, so directly adjacent to this property, the subdivider agreed to a deed restriction stating that this land will not be further subdivided.
Yeah,
So I
just-
think the planning board's asking if you would be amenable to a similar deed restriction
On the parcel,
for no further subdivision.
for all the parcels or the one? that-
Well, I highlighted, so like where Lou's house is, which is over here, is not deed restricted, and it's not
Yeah.
deed restricted over here. So if you were to carry the deed restrictions up, it would probably basically just sort of affect the front two parts.
So that's a key question that I have, Laura. I'm glad you brought up. I know you asked a question to the applicant, but please forgive me for interjecting. If the owner, Mr. Lisi, was to actually get the property that's marked off here,
Mhm.
I think he can actually develop it without a deed restriction. I don't
It
think his
doesn't,
deed-
I mean, it doesn't have a deed restriction now.
Right.
Yes, and it would be going into a non-deed restricted part
Right,
of his
okay.
existing. acre.
So Mr. Lucy can build 6 houses there,
Probably not 6.
maybe 4.
I think he has a note on there about wetlands, but I did want to follow up with him. Like, there probably are wetlands on there. So it wouldn't be a guaranteed, but the deed restriction does not apply to that
Mhm.
area.
Good. That's what I thought would have happened
So
actually.
the suggestion would be to have the 2 new 3-acre lots deed restricted, so there'd only be one home on each of those lots. Is that what you were saying?
I actually would, as much as we're referring to another prior developer's deed restrictions, we're also open to doing what is right for this particular property. So I'm actually thinking the 2, 3 lots plus that third spot be restricted in some way because we got so much feedback of
Mhm.
the wildlife and the runoff and, all that went into that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to have said one thing and made people feel at ease.
right.
And then a few months later, find out we're putting 3 more houses on.
I would have no problem with restricting the 2 lots for one house only, so they couldn't be further subdivided. Yeah, I have no
And then
problem
the
with that.
third lot have a deed restriction that no further development.
Well,
You may need to talk to the potential
Yeah,
buyer.
Well, we're just sharing with you that would be, if you're open to closing the estate, and moving forward, that's just something that I'm asking you to consider. That's all. If you can do, you obviously can do what you can do, but that is aligned with what feedback we received on this very area. And, we had just gone through this not that long ago.
Yeah. So my question is, Laura, do we, the engineering, obviously the wetlands delineation for a map, I think the claim was that it's been walked and it's okay, but I think there's some other information that says that it may not be, that needs to be, professionally evaluated,
I had the engineer survey for wetlands, and the houses had no impact on any wetlands.
the whole property or just where the houses will be, building envelope.
Where we show the disturbed area, I didn't pay him to do the survey of the whole property because I'm not doing anything with 3/4 of it. But where the houses are and where the disturbance is shown, there's no wetlands. He surveyed. There's a note on the map to that effect.
So my question, Laura, do we do a subdivision without all the engineering and just redraw the lines and then have the potential future homeowner come in to do the detailed engineering where they want to put the house? Or is Mr. Polsonelli responsible, similar to Empire Drive, all the engineering, culverts and, water lines and all that level of
There won't be any
detail?
Site drainage, we'll contain that on site.
Yeah.
Like
But I meant
think
all those
next door-
details. My
Yeah.
question is.
Yeah, so it's a sketch plan at this point. And I think probably the recommendation was to at least put the contours on it for to go into the next round of subdivision. But for subdivision, we would still have to look at stormwater. And we talked about this a little bit. I think on the Vincenzo, there was like a rain garden. So you definitely want your engineer to look at which way the stormwater was going and if there needed to be any type of rain garden or anything on these properties.
And there is water and sewer right at the stub street that they would just connect into.
Yeah, and then you would show those connections as well on the final. On sketch plan, you don't necessarily have to, but you would, like Clark and I would probably can give you a list of things that you would have to add. Conceptually, I think 2 lots is probably a good density in the area because we know that the stormwater is such an issue, and we've seen different concepts on this property a lot. But you would still need to have some kind of statement, stormwater analysis from them.
Does that make sense?
Can you bring that map up and
Oh, yeah.
talk about that one? So Laura's going to bring the map up. One of the things we look at is trying to align property lines. We have the ability and not make trapezoidal shapes if it can be avoided. So if the intent is to deed part of the back parcel to the leases, she's going to draw a line here.
Maybe.
Just something to consider is connecting the one parcel corner down to between Mahar and Lisi so that it connects back up.
So I know where you're going. That was
Yeah.
actually my first approach.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Um,
You can actually just use if you want to use your finger there to show. Yeah,
My first approach was to connect these 2 corners.
correct.
But my primary goal was to make 2 3-acre lots.
Mhm.
So that didn't work. This became a lot less than 3 acres. This became a lot more than 3 acres. So then we played with this line. This is like probably the 4th iteration. So we played with this line. Again, my goal was to get 2 3-acre lots and whatever is left over.
So no one's going to be able to hear that on the record. I'm just going to summarize. I think
Yep.
he tried a couple times to change the back of the lot, but he was really shooting for 3 acres. So they tried multiple iterations. We can hear you, but the recording won't hear you, and there's no way we'll get that into the
Yeah, I'm
minutes, right?
sorry. Yeah, so my first approach was to connect dots. But my primary goal is to make at least 2 lots that were 3 acres. And by connecting those corners, one was a lot more than 3 acres, the other was a lot less than 3 acres. So that's probably about the 4th iteration that I had the engineer play with, and he came up with, that's what it came up with to make, 2 3-acre lots.
Could I ask Mr. Posinelli, is the lot on the I guess the north in that instance, is there elevations flow down to Angelina? Where does that stand on elevations?
Yeah, sir, if you could, I know it's hard, but, yeah, okay, thank you. Yeah.
Appreciate it.
The ridge,
Was there a contour?
call it a ridge, runs this way. And then it flows that way and this way.
Okay.
So again, basically where the houses are shown is kind of like the high point. It's not, we're not talking really steep. It's, gentle, but that's kind of the peak, if you will. And then the flow goes to the east and west from there. And way to the west, beyond this property and probably 360 feet into Lisi's property is where the stream is. And so all the natural drainage back in the day when it was farmed all went down to the stream. When the town came through and put sewers in, they kind of messed up the grading. They interrupted the natural flow by leaving the sewer lines high. So that kind of created areas that, weren't able to drain, but the natural drainage all went down to the stream.
I'm sure this will be caught later in the process, but are you familiar, is Polsinelli Drive graded toward the exit, the entrance of the driveways, as opposed to the other streets, they all kind of grade toward Rao. For some reason, I feel that
This
that goes
grades toward
down.
Rao.
Does it, that stub road does grade? Okay.
All those streets do, on that side of Rao.
Yeah, I would
They
hope
all-
so.
they
For some
all-
reason, I'm seeing it going down, but
Yeah, no.
So from a sketch plan standpoint, and I know, Dave, thank you for pointing out trying to tighten up the shape of the lots. But in general, it seems to be minimizing the impact with the two large lots and only two homes. So it seems to be a good thing, at least that's my opinion.
Yeah.
One thing I'd like to add, Laura, I know you mentioned earlier when we were talking about the Mohawk Golf Club regarding the letters you received for privilege of the floor. There was one in there regarding this project mixed in with those.
Oh.
Okay, so I printed it out because I was of interest to me, so I printed it. So I'll read that if you guys don't mind. It's from Margaret Corey. No address on here. Oh, excuse me, no address on here. Dear Ms. Robertson, I'm unable to attend the January 9th meeting, but I am submitting comments on agenda item discussion of sketch plan for the minor subdivision in Tenniel Park. I reside in the vicinity of the project in the Woodcrest neighborhood and frequently pass the project location when walking around the neighborhood. My husband and I are also retired environmental engineers, and we are familiar with both the seeker process and wetland delineation procedures. So the comments specifically are, I support requiring the applicant to add contour lines in the project plan, which we already discussed. I note the development area limits removal of mature trees in the area. This needs to be enforced. Earlier, similar development off Vincennes resulted in clear cutting of large areas of mature forests, much more than needed to construct the homes there. There has been no observed effort to replace any of these trees. The wetlands delineation, as noted in the seeker application, is critical. I am most certain there are wetlands in the area, which you're not denying, just that you're only sticking to around the homes, the construction site. Right?
Yeah, I don't know.
you don't know.
We
Yeah,
only studied,
because you haven't
we only
delineated
studied, from.
around the home.
Yeah.
Yep. In fact, some earlier and ongoing construction of homes off Antonio Boulevard resulted in observed encroachment on wetlands by the use of a construction and demolition debris as fill. There were also no evident stormwater runoff controls in this area. In fact, I filed a complaint with NISDEC about these observations. The planning board must insist that a proper wetlands delineation be made and any mitigation needed be enforced. And there were some questions regarding the seeker application about energy efficiency goals. We don't specify how, and the architectural historical considerations aren't addressed. So that's basically the comments, and we all got a copy of this. All right. So anyway, just be aware of that. And this is, they'll be included in the future minutes, but that's the comments from Margaret Corey. And I think, the contour line just said we're going to address, right, Laura? And then the wetlands, at least in the stormwater flows and where the water is going to go is something, you need to identify. All right. Which I think you're familiar with. All right. So there's some work to be done from those aspects, but as far as the sketch plan, is everybody okay with that? Or do we need to take a vote at the next meeting, or can we act on that now, or should we soak on it till the next meeting, or?
Yeah, I think next meeting.
Yeah. Need a resolution?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And I do want to emphasize that I think, so effectively it'll end up being 3 lots, right? And I think,
No, because that back lot really can't be created because it would be landlocked. There's
Okay.
no frontage. So that lot has to, during the recording of the subdivision, it's essentially a lot line adjustment. That land would have to get deeded to and incorporated into the leasing land at the time of subdivision.
right, so how do we deed restrict that one?
Prior to.
Well, I think that's what Chris was because Mr. Polsinelli said he was okay deeding the front 2 parcels.
Yeah, deed
But,
restricting.
I think he wanted to at least talk to Luisi before he.
No, agreed. So yeah, but regardless of how that conversation goes, I think we'd want to be able to enforce a deed restriction on that piece of land.
Yeah, so if you can relay to Lou that Lou's aware of the deed restrictions because he has them on the lower subdivision, if he would be amenable during the land sale to a deed restriction on that parcel as well.
Yeah, especially if he's only looking just to increase the buffer to, protect his investment or whatever,
I'll talk to them.
Okay, yeah. All right, so we call for tentative resolution on sketch plan? Is that too premature, or? I mean, like I said, it's a minimal impact from a,
I'd like to wait to see what happens with that. deed restriction possibility.
The
at that
conversation
time.
with Mr. Lisi, yeah.
There's a good bit of land, I think, owned by Lisi Development to the west of this parcel. Is that like, I seem to recall like over 10 acres.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and that's not deed
That's
restricted.
right.
Yeah.
That's right.
That
But
would
it
be
does have a stream that
contiguous.
runs through it. That's the stream
Yeah.
he's talking about.
Mhm.
It does
Yeah.
have a stream. Yeah.
So that would be contiguous to
So,
this,
yep.
Correct.
this lot line adjustment.
Correct.
So I don't know that Lou, it's possible that the Lisi Group has designs for further subdivision in that
Mhm.
area.
Yeah, but that, so Mr. Pulsinelli can talk to him, and I guess that'd be
Yeah.
a piece of information to
Right,
know.
yeah.
I think, I mean, it's my understanding, I don't know, you guys know better than I do. But I think he is on record that he's not going to
Develop
expand
plans
St.
of
Gerard.
18 years.
In other words, that street that goes, that's a paper street that goes my west boundary. That's a paper street that goes out to Antonia.
Mm.
And I believe he is restricted or has no intentions of ever putting that street in.
Yeah, he said that
Yeah, okay.
before. hmm He
So-
did not deed restrict the larger parcel because he has one other child that he's still trying to get to come up, but I think he was reserving access still off of Antonia.
Wasn't there also a condition of delayed development for that portion of land?
Yeah, I think there had to be a certain
Yeah.
number of years before there was any future subdivision.
18 or 10? It was certainly a generational. It wasn't like
Mm.
2 or 3 years.
I don't remember that off the top of my head. Well, actually, I know we discussed it, but I'm not sure if that was an enforceable condition either.
Yeah.
I am not sure.
Oh, okay, I can't remember that either. I remember it was discussed quite a bit.
So one thing we could do, Laura, is we could pull the resolution
Yeah,
for the
old
lease,
one.
yeah, and we get that to the board, part of the
Yep.
next package at least, so we can refresh our memory of what we worked out with Mr. Lisi.
And I'm actually okay with or without the deed restriction because clearly it would have to come back for planning. It's landlocked unless it is developed as part of the adjoining parcel.
Yeah, but Leslie, when it comes back, we're legally obligated to see it through, which will end up in it being a development.
In a lot line change would also need to be presented to the planning board if that
Yep.
idea were to occur to do it prior to this
No,
transaction.
This is happening, like, so it's a sketch plan for creating two lots and merging the back with the adjacent parcel.
Yeah.
But
That's
if-
all happening all at once.
But if a
He
lot
would
line
then-
adjustment application came in prior to us approving the 2 plots in front,
Oh, yeah,
it would come to us. So that couldn't happen either.
correct. A lot line adjustment would have to come to you guys.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm not too bothered either way.
Yeah, I actually don't think it's really changes the schedule a whole lot if you want to look at it one more time, because most of the time you guys do sketch plan approval while calling for a public hearing.
Okay,
So I think it's okay to look at it one more time, get really comfortable with the sketch plan, and
Yep.
then allow the CAC to look at it once too for seeker.
yep, no, that's all good. And then, yeah, because the Conservation Advisory Council hasn't had an opportunity just because of where the application fell. And they meet at beginning of the month in February. So we'll get their input and they review the application, seeker application also. And you have an opportunity to talk to Mr. Lisi, make sure he understands what the kind of things we're talking about and topo lines. And, any concerns with wetlands or which way the water is going to flow on the property, which we already have kind of a handle on, what it sounds like. And then we'll have another discussion. And at that point, we can call for a resolution, which would be the earliest at the next meeting. And then we would call for a resolution granting sketch plan approval and calling for the public hearing, because there's public hearings required here.
So the next meeting would be when?
The next meeting is January 23rd, I believe.
Yep, January 23rd.
So on the 23rd, you'd like me to update the map showing the contours, the
If you-
water sewer connections, and then.
Yeah, anything you could
any
add to it would
stormwater?
be helpful.
Mhm,
Yep.
stormwater.
Okay. And now when, so if the meeting's the 23rd, when do you need that by?
So we're trying 5 to 10 days ahead of the meeting. So I'm just doing that in my head.
Yeah, I mean,
Very well.
18th.
17th, 18th would be the drop dead, but if you can get it to us earlier, that would be better.
Okay, I'll try.
Okay,
Okay,
all right. Thank you. I think we'll get there.
thank you.
All right. All right. Geez, oh, you guys, you were here first? I thought you were just listening in. Oh, okay. No, thank you for your patience. So 31 East Street, and that's northeast underlayments, right? Site plan application for a tenant change under the pre-existing non-conforming interior storage of that building over at 31 East Street. So if you guys want to kick it off, you can, talk about what you want to do there and your business and who you are and all that kind of stuff. How's that?
I'm Jeffrey Combs.
I'm Janet Conis.
How are you all?
Good, great.
Pleased to meet you. We've been in long search of trying to find a facility just to be able to store materials and have a place for men to be able to load and unload vehicles. The basis of our business is up in Warren County, New York, up in Warrensburg. We actually occupy a very similar type situation. We're a commercial enterprise in a residential area. Also under the guidance of the APA, which is a very challenging restrictions on a piece of property, and we get along very well, got everything that they ask. So we have been in long search of just a small facility to be able to store equipment, have men come and go, similar to what is going on in the building right now. Take care of our day in and day out insulation business and underlayment business. We've been located over in Albany for 15 years, 13 or 15 years. And this piece of property was brought to us. We are under contract with the stipulation of being able to get water and sewer to the property, which does not exist at this point. We feel as though it's necessary to be able to bring that to the piece of property. There are no sanitary facilities there now. The building's being used. So we thought it was going to really be a requirement for us to be able to do that. We've given you a rough sketch of what we see and the way we'd like to use the piece of property with as little imposition to the neighbor. There's a neighbor that backs right up to the building. I don't know if there's anybody been past the piece of property. Oh, yeah. There's a gentleman that backs right up to the building, which is kind of falling in a state of disrepair. There's a little bit of work that needs to be done to the roof and a little bit of structural work to a back door on the building. But we'd like to put a little bit more green space to be able to park a few vehicles on the outside of the building. And there are other pieces of equipment that we would store inside that need necessary for indoor storage, especially during the frosty months. We do very little on-site work. We might do a little bit of cleaning of material, cleaning of equipment, cleaning of trucks, just general housekeeping. And I guess that's about it.
You mentioned you're up in Warrensburg and in Albany. Is the plan to not utilize those two facilities?
No, we're going to stay at Warrensburg.
That's our main office.
That's close to home.
Okay.
And we have a couple of people that work for us in the area down here, just some salespeople.
And we rent that space.
Yeah.
So we're looking to own versus.
So that's the one in Albany, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Correct.
okay. And it's because, taking a look at the application, one thing that concerned me, and you guys sat here long enough to hear about the concerns about residential neighborhood, right?
Right.
So so that was good. As reading the paperwork that was submitted talks about, let me find it. I can read it right to you here.
Oh, great. I wrote.
Yeah, I gotcha. No, not really. It just talks about office support or somewhere in here. That you have office staff or whatever, right?
Right.
Where would
we
they?
have a salesman. We have, what would you call Brian? Estimator. And then office support staff for those two.
Would they stay in Warrensburg or?
No, they would be here.
They'd be here.
Here, and we would be, the main office is in Warrensburg.
So they would be in Niskayuna, those.
Right.
So there would be office personnel located at the Niskayuna site.
There would be, the salesman would come in and out. He would mainly be on the road, but the estimator would be there doing plans, and then the support staff, whoever that was, would be there part-time.
So this will be an office use.
Yeah, so and again, I appreciate, just concerned about the neighborhood because that's a little bit different than storage, right? That's actually an office, right?
Right.
So that was my, concern. I mean, I think the planning department and legal are still reviewing the application because this is such a unique circumstance for us. So that's why I was just looking for some additional details, because if it was just storage, I mean, bathrooms are great to have and water's great to have, but if it's just storage, you could probably get by without tying into, in fact, I don't even know if there's any sewer available there.
No, there is not.
Everybody's on septic over there, right? As we know very well. Yeah.
That would require.
Yeah, that's why we need
And
an engineer.
that could be very difficult with your site also. I'm not sure how the size of the site and how the drainage is over there also, that could be quite the challenge on its own.
We consulted with an engineer on the property
Mhm.
already.
Yeah.
ADO engineers, John Hitchcock, and he thinks he can come up with a plan.
Yeah.
We're gonna sit with you first and then.
Right.
See if it's necessary.
To bring sewer to the.
No, for septic, because there's no
Septic
sewer,
system.
yeah.
We can get water crossing the street, but we can't get septic there.
We're not a retail space. We're not a sales office.
Understand.
We're just a little cubicle that a gentleman.
Yep, I understand, but I just want to make it clear that, again, if they're doing the research to see, right now it's a non-conforming, pre-existing non-conforming use, and if it's just storage, well, that kind of continues that. So these little, differences, I need the guidance that it's, that it's going forward as it was. If those changes, does it kick in any other requirements or zoning regulations or reviews or use variances from the zoning board of appeals, and this is the first time we've seen it. So those are all questions that I have that have to be explored by the planning office and by legal department,
Right.
So indoor storage would be allowed just under site plan, which is what was submitted. But for a non-conforming use, any change in use isn't allowed. So it would have to be a use variance application to do the office space in there. The storage, you wouldn't need a use variance on because that's allowed.
Okay.
The outdoor storage, I can't remember if I talked to you or Clark talked to you, is also not allowed and is currently under a court enforcement action. But, if it makes sense and you really like this parcel a lot, it is pre-existing non-conforming. So you might want to wrap it all up into exactly what you would want to see it. And, for the future,
through the right
because
process.
once you sort of take a use variance case forward, it's really hard to modify.
Yes.
Yes.
The only outdoor storage would be our vehicle.
Yeah, that's not considered outdoor storage. I think what the enforcement action is right now is all the concrete. Or-
No, none of that would be outdoor.
Yeah,
Just vehicles and support vehicles
And-
and trailers.
And your trash, that's about it.
yeah, that's not really considered the
Yes,
outdoor
that's- yeah.
storage. So that would be okay. So like to Kevin's point, indoor storage and vehicles on the site would be allowed just through this board as a tenant change. But the office space would be problematic.
Okay, the office spaces, you have to have that.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's,
Very small part of them.
yeah, it's another process, right? It's
Mhm.
not, it's a
Yeah.
process for a use variance.
Yeah, then again, that was my concern, just, reading it. And you want it done right? You don't want to get in there and find out that it was something that wasn't allowed and have problems down the road, especially if you purchased the
Right.
location.
We've been through this once before and we're very careful about it before we
Yeah.
proceeded with the purchase up there.
Yeah, I mean, the outdoor storage examples would be like materials that,
No.
and,
All price cement.
and that's all, you want to keep it dry, you want to keep it
Yes.
inside anyway. And
Yeah,
especially
yeah,
spray
outside.
foam equipment, obviously, I don't know if that's truck mounted inside the trucks or whether it's,
What's mounted inside trucks, we store outside. What is not, there's a couple of very
Yep.
expensive pieces of equipment that we
Right.
have to keep dry.
So it goes in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it goes inside.
but, it seems like a low impact use of the property. But again, it sounds like it's going to need a use variance for the office use,
Okay.
because that's not currently what it's used for. At least
Okay.
not that we're aware of, at least, so.
Does the comprehensive plan refer to this property at all, being in a rural residential?
There's a fair number of recommendations for this neighborhood.
Yeah.
I don't know off the top
Okay,
of my head. I'd have to look.
this fine. We can look at it in detail, but I think we need to look at that. I mean, if we're going to go for use variance, there's going to be a question concern.
Yeah, if the office space is really critical, what we need you to do is break down the building and give us a rough estimate of the square footage of the office space that you would want to add to the interior. And then based on that, like I said, I think most of the stuff in this application is compliant, but we would have to deny the office space
next level of detail. Yeah, I made some notes when I was just looking over things, that we look at. And again, you don't want to invest a lot in engineering because right now you're trying to just work through it, whether it's even worth it to you guys to continue to pursue it, right? But, we're going to ask about noise, right? Well, if there's no outdoor work going on, well, there's going to be minimal noise, right? It's just, they're going to come, the most noise would be unloading probably and just,
Loading a truck in the middle.
yeah, exactly. Any kind of lighting, making sure that the lighting stays on the property. How many people are going to be located there? How many employees do you have or expect? Because that in turn means they're going to park their vehicles when they take the other trucks away. So you could think about that and give us some kind of an idea how many employees you would have located at this site. And I think the parking is driven by the square footage of the building, but it's nice to know, about how many people would be there, right? Because that, relates to kind of to impact the neighborhood too, right? You only got a couple people, that's low impact. You got, 10 employees coming there and parking their cars and coming in and out. Well, that's a different story, right? All right, and then you understand number of employees. And then what triggered me was I saw the thing about the bathroom. That was my concern, right? But,
It's a little crazy not to have.
yeah, oh, yeah.
sanitary facilities.
Yeah, well, there's none there now because it's strictly storage, so who knows what they're doing, but we understand.
Okay, so then if we draw this up and get it to you, is it possible for the next meeting?
We could have the denial ready for the next meeting with the planning board allowed to make comments on it. I'd have to work with you guys on a fairly accelerated pace to get you before the zoning board in February. Normally, our cutoff date for the February zoning board would be January 15th.
Yeah, because we need to make a we need to get the information, about the impacts, right, and your plan. And then we make a recommendation, which is not, set in stone to the zoning board of appeals. They're the ultimate decision maker on the use variance. But, when you take a look at the application, if you haven't already for use variance, there's certain criteria you have to meet, including why this makes sense financially, So there's, some work to be done on your part,
Very good.
And
And-
since I know that area so well, I just have to ask, what size trucks would you be having coming in and out?
They're one-ton pickup trucks.
Okay, no tractor trailer rigs to deliver
Once
materials?
in a while, we may receive a delivery by a tractor trailer rig, which we've traced the roads in there and found that some of them aren't acceptable, but some of them are wide and haven't been used. Basically, the vehicles that are going in and out of there now, the concrete pumps and trucks that they're driving in and out we will be that size or smaller.
I have a picture of one of our trucks if you'd like to see it.
Service vehicles are 1 ton.
It's a 1-ton pickup truck with a
One-ton pickup truck.
specialized body on the back or.
Pulling a pump or a
Yep.
rig or processing.
Yep.
I just know that street is not very wide at all.
No, east is not very wide. And excuse me for not knowing the other street that kind of winds around a little bit is much wider than east.
Williams, yeah.
Of course, the phone doesn't work when you want it to.
Yeah, I took a ride up there the other day, drove around, and the streets are narrow and tough.
Yeah, it is.
That's one of our
Yeah.
trucks.
Does the street support
So
a
it's
tractor
smaller.
trailer?
Yeah, and then this is
Most of our equipment goes in and out of
Question.
residential property.
one of the trailers.
Yeah, I
There
mean,
isn't
nature of the
even
business,
any-
right?
There's no
Yeah, we're-
restriction on the,
we have
there's no
residential
weight limit on that
venue.
street.
Okay, I guess that was my
Yeah.
question. Okay.
The hook's on the back of the other.
Yep.
There is some buffer between this
Well,
site and the
That's actually
bike
on a
trail.
flat barge going
Are you
out.
planning on,
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there's been a lot of
Not
debris
around there.
thrown in there too.
Yes.
yeah.
Really needs to be
Going
cleaned
out
out.
to do a
So
house on
what
the
is your
mountain.
plan with that? It's tough to tell where this property ends and where the state property
Now,
begins.
this first thing we'll probably get done is the survey so we can do a lot of the planning for sewage disposal. There's a green space there, which won't be touched. And there's a green space, I think that can be improved between the neighbor and vacant property. Basically it's gravel and weeds right now.
Hmm.
Not very easy on the eyes.
Seems like it'd be a significant investment for you with the septic and everything that needs to be done to make this feasible for you, right?
It will be, yeah.
Yeah.
So just a
And just, we've got contingencies in for all of that to make
Yeah.
sure that we can get accomplish that, because when you look at the piece of property, we've got to go in and do a couple of test holes to make sure that we can get proper percolation to be able to put a small sewage system in there. The
And it'll
engineer-
be well insulated. Because we're an insulation business too.
Oh, yeah. All the spray foam,
Yeah.
the heck out of it, huh?
So just a business curiosity question. So you're very disparate in the capital region, right? Warrensburg, Albany, and you're going to be putting in some sort of a personnel here, obviously, right, for sales estimation. So are you seeing some kind of increase in the market for your business in the vicinity of Niskayuna, Schenectady, or is it?
It's really the heart of our business. Our business used to occur in 30 states, and now we try to work in about 30 counties. I've learned to appreciate my home and my bed a little bit more than I did living in hotels. So we try to bring our business in a little bit closer. We've reduced the size of it. And Albany is the central part of our market. We do a lot of work for contractors in the Albany area.
Okay, so by that, then you do expect to then be doing some significant level of work for contractors in the Schenectady area.
Yes, we have
We
been.
do.
We have been.
Okay.
And it's easy in, easy.
Okay, so you've been doing that business already. So this facilitates.
Moving from Albany to Niskayuna.
Yeah.
And you mentioned tractor trailer potential delivery. Is it possible for a tractor trailer to get?
Yeah, they've had them in there already. They come and go there a little bit right
These guys.
Oh, the existing businesses?
Yeah, the Barbera Concrete, is that?
All right.
Okay.
And we wouldn't have a public hearing, Laura, because the public hearing would be at the zoning board of appeals when you make your case for the use variance. That's, when the public would have the opportunity to be heard about any concerns that they would have, And of course, if they see us talking or see the agenda, but we haven't received anything yet because this is a new project, of course.
Yeah, there's not a lot of neighbors that are going to be getting called on this one, Laura, right, Laura?
I mean, they would get notified. Well, it's
Yeah.
a 500-foot radius, but everything
It's
to the
state.
south is, there's only one parcel. That's the parcel actually that used to have the winery on it. It
Right.
comes all the way down here. Or the SI group, it's one or the other.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then,
that's us, yeah.
is it SI? Yeah, and then there's houses across the street that would get notified.
Yeah. I mean, there's one house across the street and then there's some across East Street. Some of those East Street houses are going to get notified too?
On East Street, yeah, 500 feet of the boundary of this, it's not going to be very wide ranging because just
Mhm.
looking at it, it's probably, like as you get towards the right side of this drawing, it'll easily be 500 feet to East Street.
Right.
Right, but most of the direct adjacent
Okay.
neighbors will get notified to the zoning board of appeals. That's a much bigger radius than we do. We do a 200 and they do a 500.
All right.
Okay. All right, so it sounds like your next action is file the paperwork, right, for the use variance application? Take a look at that, and Laura or Clark, right?
Yeah, just mark the square footage of the office space that you need.
Oh, yeah, sketch of the
Yeah,
internal
of the internal. And
details.
No customers, just office.
No.
Nope.
Rarely.
Approximate number of vehicles that you have, number of employees, so we'll assume each employee comes to work on their own, but how many vehicles does the business plan on parking there, that kind of thing, just for information, right?
Yeah.
Just a list, basically, of all that kind of stuff would help. And you'll get asked, if you go make it to the zoning board of appeals and be heard, the same questions will come up, so.
Certainly.
Yeah. So the septic system is going to have to go to the east side of the building, right? That's really the only place you can put it.
We don't have setbacks
actually-
for septic systems, actually. They can put it on either side. Although a lot of times you don't want to park on it.
Yeah, right. You don't want to.
I'd like to actually turn the area that joins East Street, or when you go out from the building to East Street, I'd rather turn that into a greenscape and maybe be able to get the evaporation beds out there.
Okay.
A little bit of lawn, a couple of trees, and
We're gonna see what the
and
engineer
try to
says.
soften.
Yep.
it. Yeah,
And don't forget, you also have that small parking lot for entrance to the bike path, the trail, the
three or
bike
four
path.
cars there, and then
Mhm.
as people come pick up equipment, we replace that equipment with personal vehicle.
Okay. Any questions? And I know Laura, and Mr. Henry would, obviously help you out.
Yes,
Making sure
you're
you have,
hearing from me a lot.
yeah.
A lot of help.
Okay, we appreciate that. And then we'll have you down for the next meeting.
Very good.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, and thank you for your patience tonight,
Thanks for
hanging out with
coming
us.
all
Thanks for waiting.
Yeah.
Yep, and come down. Well,
got to take my mom out to dinner tonight.
Yeah.
So that worked out well.
Keep the snow up there too, would you?
Sorry?
Keep the snow up there also.
Yeah.
We don't have
Yeah.
much.
We don't have much.
Yeah. all right.
Take care.
All right,
Good
thank
night.
you.
All right.
Okay, and that brings us to reports, and there was one item. that was- oh,
Isn't
sorry.
there a Trinity Church thing that was on?
We already talked about Trinity
Church of Christ.
No, Church of Christ.
Oh,
I'm
that's what I'm
sorry.
talking about now. It's under reports.
Oh, okay, that's reports.
Yeah,
All
that's
right.
where
Yeah,
we're going to.
sorry.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's, I was going to say that 2042, Laura wanted to mention the new signage there, a replacement signage that I guess they want to do.
Yeah, I'll let Clark take that one. He prepared the materials for the.
Okay, Clark? And it's
Sure,
included.
nothing special here. We just wanted to let the planning board know it's an exact duplicate of what is there now, which was an exact duplicate of what was there prior. So, and it's also code compliant.
Any lighting, Clark?
Nope.
All right, so it's basically just a building permit and just letting us know?
Yeah, I think we did. It is a little bit too tall for the space between the bottom of the side and grade. So we asked them to lower that to comply with code. Other
Great,
than that, it's fine.
great.
So it's even better. It's becoming morning
Yeah.
code.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, we appreciate that. Thank you, Clark.
I don't know if this is appropriate to mention, but there's been a minor maintenance issue there with the lawn over the last few years.
I mean, Clark and I can mention it to him. I haven't ever cited him that I can remember.
I know there've been times when it looked like it really should have been cut already.
Really? I mean, I can mention it to him. I don't think they've ever reached a code violation though. One of the other things about this property is the tree council has identified it as a really good place to add some street trees because they lost a couple big trees, which I would like to mention to them as well. Unrelated to the building permit, though.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They're allowed to have the building permit regardless.
exactly.
Okay. All right, so commission business, I just open the floor. Anybody have anything they'd like to share at the board or ask Ms. Robertson or Mr. Henry?
I have a just follow-up question. I think I'm just drawing a blank, but the property that Rebecca Holmes originally owned and then
Yeah, 1380 Van Antwerp.
the corner of Van Antwerp and Hilltop, and what was the outcome of the garage that, for the carriage house that was removed? Is there another design or plan to put a garage up for that property?
Yeah, the subdivision plan showed the demolition of that garage and then a building of a garage on 1380 Van Antwerp that was in keeping with the historic character of the house. Building permit for that garage, obviously the one that fronted kind of closer to Hilltop has been demolished, but we haven't gotten a building permit for the garage on Hilltop.
And it's the owner's option to actually put it up, correct? Or is it required that they put a garage on that parcel?
A bit of an interesting question. I think at the time it was just assumed that it would go up. I'm not exactly sure how that would work if it didn't go up in due time with the subdivision because it was kind of related to how they did the drainage and how they were allowed to take the garage down. But I don't know if they would be legally required to put up a garage or not. That would be an Alina question, and she would definitely have to look at it.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, anybody else under commission business?
It looks like Alex Ritmo won't be back before this board.
Oh, yes, sorry, I should have put that as a report. The zoning board did deny the use variance appeal for Alex Remo. So he's got a accessory structure question before us, which I did talk to Elena about today. So we may see just a minor site plan adjustment back, but the use variance was denied.
For a variety of reasons.
Laura, for the couple that was here, are you going to recommend, do they have a lawyer?
Yeah, I almost always recommend a lawyer
Okay.
for use variance. They're obviously not required, but
Right, because it seems like the use variance thing came up tonight, right? So,
yeah,
Okay.
Kevin is the greatest chairman ever. I didn't notice the office space in there.
Yeah, I read that. That was a trigger to me.
Well,
Why would you want to put, it's
Well, as
nice
soon
to
as
have
you-
bathrooms
yeah.
for the workers, but when.
yeah, well, it's soon, I started getting suspicious when you started talking
Yeah.
about bathrooms and
Yeah.
sewer, and I'm like, Huh?
And it was right in the text that she provided said office. And I said, well, if your office staff is up in Warrensburg or in Albany, well, okay, then it's just storage, but you're moving your office staff to Niskayuna, then
Which
a little bit.
overall, it's good, but
Yeah.
it's just that I think they need to make sure that,
We have traditionally interpreted adding a water line as even needing a use variance because it's dry storage.
Yep.
Yeah.
So if they want to do the office space, it's a better encompassment of adding water and sewer to the property anyway. That would have come up as a question, but if the use variance is required because of the office space, then it just encompasses everything that they're asking for there.
It's a significant investment, it looks like, so.
yeah, it is, but
Yep.
it seems like their business is
Yep.
going to support that.
Yeah.
Tough to find structure like that, probably.
The big trucks are hard. They're not lying. The concrete trucks are huge. They're almost 18 wheelers and they do drive through that neighborhood now.
Yeah.
But it is weird to have 18 wheelers in that neighborhood.
Yeah.
There's no question about it.
What do they do for cars parked on the road? mean,
Yeah,
it's on the
I
road.
mean, it's tiny. I don't even know. I don't live on that side. I live on the other
The other
side. But
side,
yeah,
yeah.
when there's it's tiny. I think the pavement is only
Yeah, it's driving around there. It's
I mean, I
it's
would
tough.
imagine
Two good-sized cars.
they would honestly probably have to stop and then go knock on the neighbor's
yeah.
door and be like,
I mean, the only saving grace is really that it's just such a short distance compared to, because that's one of our more nicer neighborhoods back there, right? And it's on that whole section of Williams, East Street going in. It's just,
yeah, they
it's just weird that right in the entrance to it, you've got this commercial looking, industrial looking facility.
Yeah, although actually you don't drive by this anymore because they removed this entrance. So there used to be an entrance from this property right down to Balltown
Yeah.
Road. It got removed when they added
Well-
that.
No, I mean coming up from East Street.
Moved,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
barricaded.
Well, it's
Yeah, it's
barricaded,
emergency
yeah.
access
But
only
so
now.
if you're going down Middle Street where all the, $1 million homes are, you don't drive by this.
Yeah, but still, it's nice having this a stone's throw away.
It is actually usable, and one of the barricades was open last time I was by.
In the winter, they don't close it.
I kind of thought,
All right. Does anybody else have anything? Because I got a couple things if anybody's got. All right, a couple things. First, I want to just thank Ms. Fode, who's back there helping us out tonight. She's moving on to different opportunities within Town Hall. And I want to thank her for her service to this board, and I'm sure other boards. So thank you, Jean. We appreciate it. And the other thing I got is Happy New Year. I meant to say at the beginning. So Happy New Year, everybody. Had a good year, and I'm sure we're going to have a lot of fun again this forthcoming year. And speaking of that, project leads, we need to do a better job with project leads. So we got 3 projects tonight, 3900 State Street, this subdivision that we just talked about in Northeast Underlayment's at. You don't have to answer me now, but I'm going to send out an email. We need to get some people to lead the discussion and be the point person on those. That makes it a lot easier, having somebody do the extra, level of work on that. Okay. So I'll send something out and hopefully we'll get some project leads assigned to all these.
I'm willing to trade Mohawk Golf Club with anyone.
Oh, no, you got it now.
I'm just kidding.
It's all yours.
Just trying to motivate other project leaders to step up. How does that sound?
Good try.
No, it's, we're good with Mohawk.
I'll trade you Mohawk Golf Club for 2 other projects.
I can't get Joni Mitchell out of my head. I don't know about you, but the parking lot, I mean, that's
All right.
like.
yeah,
Yeah.
Sorry,
That's a little
that's all I had. So
Yeah.
nothing else. So I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn.
so moved.
So move. And I'll second that. All those in favor of adjournment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a great night and thanks. Thanks.
All right. I'm sure this is just standard update, Laura. Just
Yeah, just so that we